The main character did not understand why the child was alone in the forest. The boy was calling and looking for his brother. Normally, the girl would ask if he was lost and looking for his parents and would help the child find his parents. But this time, she couldn't do anything because he was covered in blood from head to toe. She saw his coat of arms. Besides, this bloody child shouldn't have appeared here never. It all happened 3 years ago when she was obsessed with a novel called I Am the Duke's Wife by Contract. She knows this truck. She had seen this many times before. A tragic accident that often appears in romantic fantasy novels. This is how the life of the main character in Korea ended, and the girl's soul moved to another dimension, to the body of the young daughter of a village baron. She did not immediately understand this, because Charlotte Lania, as she became, was never mentioned in the original novel, only in extra chapters where she appeared for a moment, but Charlotte did not appear in the main story. She is a simple aristocrat. The main character believed that she was very lucky. She became the main female character, as if dooming herself to suffering because of all kinds of relationships, cunning schemes, and love intrigues. Don't be like that. A villain who torments the main character, or just a minor character. Such characters are constantly given the stench of Theonyi ending. But this will not happen. Therefore, getting into this body is a divine success. The main character thought so, but she just found the younger brother of the main male character. The boy looked at her and began to cry loudly and call for his brother. The girl asked the boy if he was okay. She asked where his brother had gone. The kid said he didn't know. Suddenly, a man ran up from behind. He called the lady and asked where she went by herself. The man came closer and asked what the blood was. The main character said to calm down because she doesn't think it's his blood. Apparently, the knight accompanying the child is wounded. She told Grey Caesar that it looked like his brother was somewhere nearby and asked him to search the forest. The man understood his lady. The girl believed that she could not find out about this coat of arms. She was sure that it was the coat of arms of the Duke of Keinstva, but she does not understand why this child is in such a state so far in the wilderness. She said that everything was fine and asked if he was scared. A servant came to her and said that it looks like they were attacked. The girl asked. One of them looks like a person from the House of Keinst, and 4 more bodies in black cloaks lay nearby. They looked like murderers. And then she realized that it was an attempt. It was an attempt on Theodor Heinst. She mentioned that she had completely forgotten the original story. The novel begins with the main character crying at the funeral of his younger brother and promises to take revenge on the one who dared to do it. Just think that the attempt took place here, and the main character did not understand what to do. The main character mercilessly killed everyone involved, and if it happened again, it is necessary to convey to him that their family is of no use here. Otherwise, they will not be able to avoid death. She turned to Sir Caesar and told him that she would return to the estate with this child and asked him to prepare everything. The maids asked the lady what was happening and who the child was, as well as blood. A doctor had to be called quickly. The main character said that it is not her blood and not his, so they should calm down, but just in case it is better to call a doctor's. They agreed but asked to wait a second. The girl asked where her mother and nanny were. The maid said they were in the backyard. The girl said that this child will stay with them for a while, so they have to provide for everyone. The maids understood everything. The main character was walking with a child and was thinking how to explain everything to her mother. If they do something wrong, their family will be destroyed. Mom asked Charlotte how her walk was. The maid asked what happened. Mom was shocked and asked whose blood it was. Charlotte said, "It's okay because she's fine, but she has to say something." Mom was shocked that something like this happened in their forest. The lady ordered to send a message to Duke Heinst first, and before his arrival, the child should be protected. The servants said they would do so. Milady said that she would ask Grey Caesar to investigate what happened, because it was necessary to prove to the Duke that they were not involved. It is a pity that the brother and father are absent now. Once they left the estate, she would take care of everything. Mom said that if she wants, so then she entrusts everything to her. And yet probably the child is shocked. Mom said she would tell the kitchen to prepare sweets for him and decorate the guest room. The maid said she would take the young gentleman to bed. Charlotte was grateful to the nanny. The aunt said that she would take good care of this child. and she asked not to worry and to mind her own business. Then, when she met this child, she could not even think that her life would turn upside down. She couldn't at all. The man told the gentleman that they were continuing their search. Pan said to find Theo at all costs. He needed to sneeze. Pan swore to their dead parents that he would take care of Theo. He did not understand where he was. Now he understood that he should not have been let alone. And then a servant ran into the room. He reported that a letter addressed to the Duke had arrived. It was a letter from Charlotte. She wrote that she was from the barony of Linnea in the southern part of the empire. She wanted to tell him something, so she mustered up the courage to write. The Duke ordered a servant to wait for him at the gate, as they were leaving for Linnea's estate now. Sir Caesar was telling the lady that they had dealt with the bodies found in the forest. Charlotte asked if there were any signs of those who had escaped, but he denied it. Charlotte found this strange. Based on the original, Theo was supposed to die there, but there are no signs of anyone running away. Therefore, none of the killers ran away and did not pursue. Then it is not clear how they died. The man said that there is another wonder, the reason for the death of the guard. They were not murderers. The lady did not understand what he was talking about. There was no fatal wound. There is simply no reason to die. But traces of mana were found around what happened. Charlotte asked if he meant to say that there was a mage involved. Seer said it was Charlotte thought, because the situation is worse than she thought. If it had been an assassin with a blade, Sir Caesar would have dealt with him. But if it is a magician, it will be problematic. Charlotte ordered a patrol in that area. The man understood. She also ordered to summon a magician from a neighboring estate. Caesar was surprised that it was so sudden. He thought they were planning to increase spending. The man said that hiring a magician is very expensive. Charlotte knew, but their family would not have enough money. But she told him not to worry, because she had an idea. The girl got the jewelry, she told Caesar to sell it, and hire a magician. The man questioned whether these ornaments were expensive for her. The lady said that they are important, because it is a coming-of-age gift from her parents, but she is ready to give it away, because her family and estate are more precious to her. And then Charlotte heard the boy scream. She ran into his room and asked the nanny what was going on. Theo was calling his sister, and when he saw Charlotte, he ran towards her. The nanny said that she tried to bathe the young man, but he seems to be hiding his face. The boy shouted that Theo was afraid. He shouted to his sister that he did not want this. Charlotte took him in her arms and said that everything is okay, because now his sister is with him. Charlotte told the nanny that she would help. The girl was buying the boy, and during this, she noticed a mark on the small of his back. Charlotte asked to read him a book about the times when the great wizard William lived. He had a dearest friend, Selina. The boy said Mrs. Charlotte thought it was cute. The two of them set out to fight a terrible dragon. But one day, Selina disappeared without a trace. William traveled the world in search of her, but Selina was nowhere to be found. The main character noted that the story is a bit cruel. She had already begun to think that it probably shouldn't be read to her child. William, who lost a dear friend, gradually went crazy. Soon he fell ill. Many doctors examined him, but no one could make a diagnosis. Selina returned after hearing this news, but it was too late. William was getting worse and worse. The doctors said he would not survive the night. Sadness overwhelmed Selina. She hugged William and cried. And at that moment, Selina's tears glistened, touching William's cheek. The light spread throughout the body, and when the glow faded, William came to his senses, healthy as before. They spent the rest of their lives happily together. Charlotte thought it was a most wonderful story. Theo is already asleep. She stroked him because he was dear. She was lucky to meet him then. To save such a wonderful child, she couldn't believe that something like this happens, not only in fairy tales. She's a bit worried and assumes it's because she saved him. No wonder he didn't want anyone to bathe him. Still, this estate is full of people he doesn't know. Come to think of it, the drawing is on his back. It seemed to her that people from the Heinst family had such marks on their bodies. Someone knocked, and Charlotte didn't know who it was at this hour. She looked out and saw an excited maid standing there. Charlotte asked what happened. The maid was telling the lady that she had to go downstairs. Viscount Rothen has arrived. Charlotte was shocked. The maid said that he also rolled the stage on the first floor. It seems that he is drunk, but Caesar is not in the estate now. Charlotte heard him shout something. The girl said that she understood and would go down now. Meanwhile, the baby began to wake up and did not understand where his sister was. He got up from the bed and called his sister. Meanwhile, Charlotte was walking and did not understand why he decided to make a scene at such an hour. The man asked if it was difficult for her to just see each other. He asked if she had thought about her proposal. Charlotte said she had yet to decide. The man did not understand what to think here at all. The Viscount said that if she accepted his proposal, she would become the Viscount's wife and also be able to say goodbye to debts for the territory of Lania. Charlotte said not to worry because she would cry herself out in time. And even if he can't, the girl said that she would never become his wife, the wife of Viscount Rothan, because she still has a head on her shoulders and has no reason to marry him. The Viscount questioned what she had said. He considered it arrogance and began to attack the lady. Charlotte decided he could beat her as long as she could figure out his weaknesses. And immediately, the kid ran and stood in front of Charlotte and told the Viscount not to bully his little sister. The man did not understand who this child imagined himself to be, and the boy shouted to the bad uncle to leave. The man did not understand what was happening. Charlotte herself did not understand what was happening. The man's hand began to hurt, and he said that he would not forgive her for what she had done today. He asked her to wait, as there were only 2 days left. The Viscount said that if she didn't pay in 2 days, he wouldn't let it go that easily. When he came out, Charlotte fell to her knees in horror. A boy approached her and asked her sister if she was okay. Charlotte asked why he was here. She thought he was sleeping. Theo said he missed her. She asked again, and the boy said that he was always bored when she was not around. Charlotte kissed him and said she had a strange ability. Theo questioned. Charlotte said that it is that when he smiles, all her worries simply disappear completely. The lady called the baby to the crib because he was probably already tired. Theo agreed and was already reaching for his hand, but immediately let it go and began to fall. Charlotte blamed herself for everything she believed that she should have followed him more. The maid asked her not to speak like that and asked her to go to her room and rest, because she can take care of the baby herself. The doctor said that he could not find out the reason for the loss of consciousness. A crying nanny approached her. Horrified, Charlotte asked the nanny what had happened. She did not understand what she should do because he was not getting better at all. He was getting worse. Someone even said that it would be difficult for him to survive the night. Because it is a high fever, treatment will have consequences. The lady ran to the boy. His whole body is on fire. She told him to get well and play with her tomorrow, hoping that he would hear her. She said they would go into the garden and play on the ground, and then look after the kittens. She apologized and said that she should have spent more time with him. The boy woke up and called his sister. Charlotte said she was here. The boy asked where she was going, but the girl said that she was not going anywhere else. Theo asked Charlotte not to cry. He asked her if that big bad uncle would come back. Charlotte hugged the boy in tears and said that he would not come again and asked not to worry about him. The boy told her that he would protect her. Charlotte told her brother that he didn't need to take care of her because she would protect him. It was already difficult for him to survive, and it is not clear why he has to go through this. Why did the main character turn out to be incapable of anything next to him? The girl went to bed with Theo. She did not notice how she fell asleep. It was completely unclear to the girl why she felt tired and sleepy immediately after sleep. Charlotte touched her little brother and noticed that he was getting better. Not immediately, but surely the medicine worked. This news greatly comforted Charlotte. Theo woke up. Charlotte said she was here and asked him if he was feeling better and if he was hurting somewhere. The boy said pudding. The main character did not understand at first and asked again. The kid said he wanted pudding. The sister agreed that they should go eat pudding. And then they will look at the kittens. Everyone was shocked that the boy got much better, and it was completely unclear how this was possible. The doctor said that the lady had already said that he was so sick that the medicine must have left its effects. However, he is in perfect order. This is the first time he has seen such a thing. A maid came running to Charlotte and said that they were in trouble because Duke Heinz had arrived. The man looked very angry. Theo asked his sister if she was in pain. Charlotte said she's fine. She's just a little worried. The nanny came to them and told the lady that she had better go to the room and leave everything to them. Charlotte said she couldn't because her father was away at the estate and she needed to be there on his behalf. Charlotte told the nanny not to worry because everything would be fine. She went downstairs with the baby in her arms. Theo saw his brother. The main character realized that if the boy calls him brother, then this man is the second son of the Duke Heinst Carlisle Heinst. The girl handed the boy over to the Duke's son and he kissed him. The kid asked him where he was because he was very scared. Charlotte noticed that he looked tired and thought that he was very worried. She remembered him as ruthless, but already began to doubt. Theo said that his sister gave him pudding and also played with him. Looking into those eyes, she understood that the description in the novel was not lying. Carlisle Heinst is a wild wolf. The main character greeted the Duke and introduced herself as Charlotte Lanaya. She hoped that he would see his brother safe and not blame them. After all this issue affects its territory, it was necessary to make sure of everything. She prayed that he would just let them go. Carlisle thanked her for taking care of Theo. He said that their family will not forget this and will definitely repay them. Charlotte began to say that nothing is necessary, and she promises that the investigation will help him. The man was grateful for the help. The Duke called his brother home. Theo asked if his sister would go with them. Charlotte asked again, and the boy said that he liked her very much and asked her to come with them. Carlisle told the boy that it would be just the two of them. "And my sister lives here, and this is her home." The little one said that then he is not leaving either and will live here. The Duke told his brother that he could not, but the boy began to throw tantrums and shout that he did not want to and would not go anywhere. He told his brother that he hated him. The kid started reaching for his sister, but Charlotte told him that he had to go home. Theo began to shout that he hated both his brother and sister. Carlisle tried to calm Theo down. Something strange happened, and Charlotte ordered to call the doctor as soon as possible. She grabbed Theo and asked him to breathe. Her arms began to glow as she hugged Theo. The Duke grabbed her hand, and the girl did not understand what he was doing at all. The main character decided that she did not succeed. Her arms glowed as she hugged Theo. And when Carlisle took her hand, it wasn't clear what it was. Either way, it's good that Theo is okay. She believed that this was in the novel, but it is obvious that something is wrong. She could remember when she first got here. The Duke asked if he could enter. Charlotte reported that Theo was asleep, and the doctor took care of everything. There is nothing to worry about. Nothing will happen. Fortunately, he escaped death. The doctor says that it is thanks to her. Well, Charlotte does not understand. The main character wondered why he was looking at her like that. Charlotte said that if he wanted to ask about that light, she couldn't answer, because she didn't know anything herself. The man asked if she knew anything about the right person. At that moment, she could feel this is an emergency, such a dangerous signal that it can change the original. In the novel, the action takes place in a magical world. Mages use innate mana to cast spells that are difficult, so one must first learn how to control mana. But there is a minority capable of conjuring this. Their name is Rosetto. They inherited the blood of the first incredibly strong generation of mages, so they could be stunned. But they had a fatal flaw. Mana exploded if they didn't receive proper training. Due to this, their body temperature rose, and in the event of a mistake, they died. Just like a ticking time bomb, like Theo. Now the main character understands, although she still has doubts. If Theo is Rosetto, then everything falls into place. There were no traces of magic on those killed, possibly because Theo's mana had exploded. The pattern on his back is the symbol of Rosetto. I did not believe that she could be a suitable person. Necessity for Rosetto is unable to control mana. There are too many coincidences to deny. They did not allow him to live peacefully, and even dragged him into the problems of the main character. The Duke said that based on what he had seen, Charlotte was a suitable person, so he wants to offer something, she asked again. Until Theo learns to control mana, he asked her if she would become the Duchess of Heinste. At night, the main character thought about it. She didn't understand who she was to be a duchess. She told Carlisle that if she had to live with a baby, she could become a teacher. Carlisle said that her words have meaning, but the teacher cannot walk with the Knights of Heinst. Charlotte remembered that Theo had been attacked, and she can't know when it will happen again. The right person is difficult to find. That's why the Duke thinks she's the perfect choice. Herzog said it was better to understand. Charlotte said that it was the first time they had met, and it was unclear what others would think. The man said that as long as she was a duchess, she could do whatever she wanted. And if she doesn't help, Theo's mana might explode again. So he asks her to agree. Carlisle said he would pay a fair price. Charlotte asked him to give her time to think. He agreed and said that during this time he would draw up a contract and asks her to consider everything Charlotte Lania and Carlisle Heinst contract for 5 years. Carlisle Heinst will pay Charlotte Lania PLN $5,000 each year. She thought about the scale of these payments. Even after paying the debt to Viscount Roten, she will still have 45,000 ingots left. It's not even about the debt. This money will help people live in comfort. Charlotte Lania and Carlisle Heinst will live as a married couple during the contract. In addition, Charlotte Lania must take care of Theodore Heinstu. Even if it's a contract, Theo is most important. If his mana explodes again, Theo was saying something to his sister. He opened his eyes. The girl apologized for waking her up. The girl asked him why he was awake, jokingly, asking if he was having nightmares. Charlotte said she has such terrible dreams that she can't sleep. Theo told her not to be afraid because he would protect her. He is nearby, so there will be no more nightmares. In any case, it seems that the answer to this proposal was with her from the beginning. Herzog asked her if she had decided. Charlotte said yes, and they would sign the contract. Carlisle saw that she had made the right decision. But it has several conditions. Herzog asked what she was talking about. First, she does not want to get married. Carlisle asked what that meant. It is quite intriguing whether she will sign the contract without a wedding. Charlotte said they would start with an engagement. The Duke was in shock. Charlotte told him to think for himself, that their families had never been in contact before. And everyone will definitely think that it is strange. Therefore, it is necessary to start with the engagement and then play the wedding. The man agreed, but said that they would not delay anything, and he knows that the duration of the engagement is a year. She knew this, but believed that when he passed, he would no longer need her, because Penelope, the main character of the novel, will appear. As she remembers, she will appear 6 months after the attack on Theo. They will meet at a banquet arranged in the palace. Penelope will stumble and fall into his hands, and inside Carlisle, everything will tighten. Before that, he was suffering because of the loss of Theo. He suffered because he was Rosetto. If Carlisle had only known that there was Rosetto, maybe it wouldn't hurt so much. The Duke took her hand and asked if she was listening to him. The girl apologized, said that she thought a little. Herzog said that the engagement will last for a year, and then they will have a wedding next fall. Charlotte agreed and asked if she could add one more point. If the need for V-contact disappears, it can be terminated immediately. Carlisle agreed to this, and they dared to sign it. Charlotte said she would now think about how to tell her parents her father will arrive tonight. The Duke hoped that the news of the engagement would make him happy. Charlotte said that, unfortunately, her father has no desire for power because he loves her more than anything in the world. Therefore, it will take a little to convince him. The girl asked the Duke 2 years ago if he was at the national founding ceremony. Carlisle questioned. Charlotte said that 2 years ago she was going to the capital, and the ceremony was held there, so she attended the festival, and it seemed to her that they met then. They met by chance, looked at each other, and left without saying a word. And as he was leaving, you dropped the thing she kept. This time, when he came for Theo, Charlotte realized that he was the same person. Herzog said there was indeed a national founding ceremony. He put some kind of necklace on the table and said that he has been wearing it since childhood, but no one knows about its existence except him. The second part was lost 2 years ago. It was great because the 2 pieces fit perfectly. Charlotte asked to take care of her and promised to do her best. Charlotte approached her father, and the man was very happy to see her. The girl thought that he was very tired. The Pope said that he would soon deal with the dirty Viscount's debts, and he won't get her anymore. The same Viscount burst into the room. He asked if he was talking about him. Viscount only wanted to miss the Lania family, but he hears this. The man asked if Charlotte's father had prepared the money. He wanted the man to pay faster before the debt grew. And then the father said that he had prepared the money, loan of 5,500%, a total of 5,500,000 gold bars. The Viscount was shocked and did not understand how he was able to collect so much in a couple of days. Charlotte was happy and said that she promised to pay under Charlotte's guidance. The father found minerals in the south invested, and here are the dividends. The man said that when he received the money, he could no longer cling to his daughter. The Viscount tore up the check. Father simply did not understand what he was doing. The Viscount shouted that he couldn't stand it any longer because some baroness dared to look down on him. He left Charlotte's father. He yelled at Charlotte and her father and said that it was crazy to make so much money in such a short period of time, and they can't fool him. The Viscount shouted that he would not leave at all. The Duke burst into the room and asked what he was doing and how he dared to address his bride like that. The Viscount asked with a trembling voice. Charlotte told the Duke that he could not say that the father was in complete shock and asked his daughter what the bride meant. Charlotte looked at the Duke and he stood there with a blank face. She just wanted to die of shame. Carlyle had been wondering since yesterday why everyone was looking at him like that. He turned to Chase and asked why Chase was looking at him like that. The servant apologized and said that it was impressive to see how quickly he had adapted to the Lanya manner. He is his assistant, but he arrived late and is ashamed of it. But it was lucky that the Duke managed Carlyle, asked if this was all the information from the investigation of the Baron's family. The servant confirmed this and added that there was nothing special. At first, they are a poor family in an empty village. And the main thing is that Baron Lanya loves his daughter very much. Father asked if they had actually met in the capital. Charlotte asked if he remembered her talking about that necklace before the Duke has the other half. The Baron asked Duke Heinst whether these feelings were sincere, and is he sure that this is not a fleeting love? Herzog said it was definitely sincerity, and he needs his daughter, and he won't let her regret her decision. Dad asked Charlotte if she was sure she wouldn't regret it. Charlotte said no way. Never father said that, as he said he was in a hurry. Carlyle said that without Miss Theo he would be in danger, and he doesn't understand the rush. They still do not know who is behind this attack. Father said that the wedding is an important process, and you can't decide everything so quickly. Even if they are involved, it doesn't matter. He will be able to keep Lanaya with him and eventually conquer, but he doesn't understand something about the sapphire necklace. The same as what they paid to hire mages. The Duke said that he had heard that Lania was in debt to Viscount Rothan. They could pay for everything with that necklace, and it is not clear why they did not do this. The servant said that the maid said that the gentleman wanted to do so, but the Baroness refused her. Apparently, this jewel is handed over at a coming-of-age ceremony. Apparently the lady values her very much, and they sold for a random kid and dead knights. The Duke ordered to find it the same jewel with sapphires. Right now, the servant was in complete shock, but began to follow the order. Charlotte said the Duke was special. She spoke as if there was nothing to be afraid of. Her eyes are so innocent. A girl who is ready to give an expensive thing for the sake of some child. A girl about whom there was no reason to participate in the attempt. The Duke believed that this could not happen because he had already considered everything. Carlyle thought that when he found his brother, the pain would stop. The pain went away once. The day he took her hand. In those few seconds, it became incredibly easy for him. And it is clear why Theo got better. But it is not clear why he, too. The Duke heard his brother's voice saying something about his sister's flowers. He looked out the window. I saw Charlotte playing with Theo there. The lady asked the boy for his hand and said that she would make him a bracelet. Theo questioned. Malia saw his brother and started waving to him. Carlyle heard strange noises and suddenly saw a vase of flowers falling on his little brother. But Charlotte rushed to save him. The girl covered little Theo with herself. The vase fell right on top of her. The Duke was already there, and he took Charlotte in his arms. The man ordered to call a doctor. The main character woke up already in bed. The boy asked his sister if she was in pain. Charlotte thought she had blacked out immediately after the impact. Theo said that when the wound was being treated, it looked like she was in a lot of pain. The girl told the boy that everything is fine. Theo begged for no more pain. The main character did not understand why he was so cute. In general, when Charlotte was treated, the Duke held her hand. Carlyle said they should hold hands until the treatment was over. He was very grateful to her for saving his brother, and said that he was wondering if it would be better to go to the capital soon, so he asked her to prepare to send him. The main character was shocked that he was worried about her, but she herself denied it, because she believed that he probably wanted to take the boy to a safe place. Theo asked her sister why she was laughing, and she said it was because the pain went away as soon as it blew. Charlotte said he was the best. They hugged sweetly. The maids had already prepared everything, and it was time to leave. The main character understood that she would return in 6 months. Charlotte had no idea why she felt so insecure. The girl began to convince herself that everything would be fine and she can. The mother hugged her daughter and asked her to be more careful on the road. Her father told her to come back whenever she wanted, because her happiness was the most important thing in the world. Charlotte told her parents to take care of themselves too. When she turned back, she saw that her mother was crying, and this made her shed a tear. Opening the door, she saw the Duke, her brother, and his assistant in front of her. The boy was very happy because they were riding together. The aide said he wanted to hand her something before she left. Charlotte asked if these were the same jewels that she had hired the magician for. Duke said they found it for her. It was these jewels that allowed her to live as Charlotte Lania. She thought she would never see them again. The girl was very grateful. Carlyle said he did what he had to. Charlotte was very grateful and said that she was not very expensive. The assistant said it was time to go. Theo asked Charlotte if she was going to live with him and was happy that they would be living together. Although life in the capital may not be so peaceful, she will always have a family to return to, and Charlotte will definitely return. So that it doesn't happen, the main character thought about it and decided that something was wrong. The pot suddenly fell on Theo's head, and when he started eating cookies, he almost choked. These events were very strange. Charlotte didn't understand why this kept happening to Theo. She thought it was because he was supposed to die but survived, because she saved him. After all, he died in the original. Because of this, Charlotte assumed that this was happening to him because of her, due to the fact that his fate deviated from the original. Charlotte decided she couldn't let him die. He is usually a child who dreams of tomorrow. Theo is the Duke's wake-up toy. Carlyle informed the lady that they had arrived. Charlotte began to wake up her brother and say that they were at home. Carlyle said he would carry it. But the kid refused and said that he would go with his sister. Charlotte believed that the Duke really loved his younger brother. They approached the Manor-gate. The Duke told the girl to take his hand, just in case she and Theo went wrong. The main character decided that there was nothing wrong with taking his hand for a moment. No. Now everything has officially begun, time to dive into the original story. The kid was showing his sister his room. Charlotte said he had a very nice room, and the boy said to wait a second, because he wanted to give her something. Theo brought Charlotte a teddy bear. The main character was surprised, because the Duke's family would not have bought such an ordinary toy. Charlotte said that she must have seen this bear somewhere before. Theo said his brother gave it to him. It looked familiar, but she still hesitated. As a result, the main character decided that all bears are the same. Charlotte was greeted by Ain. The girl did not know who he was, and he introduced himself as the magician of the Keinst family. He said that he was told that she was hurt and wanted to have a look. When he looked at it, he said it looked painful. Mage Ain healed her and said that everything is ready. Charlotte was very happy and very grateful to him for this. At the same time, the man asked the boy if he was hurting somewhere. Theo denied this with a smile. Ain noticed that it was all thanks to the lady. Charlotte thought he already knew she was a decent person. It would be great, keep it up. The young lady asked if they could teach her how to manage mana. But this surprised the magician, and he asked again. The girl confirmed her question. Charlotte knew he was a man capable of stabilizing mana. She doesn't have any desire to become a mage, but she is wondering if there is a way to gather her power. The main character definitely remembers from the original novel how Penelope gathered her strength and turned it into a magical stone. Carlyle would be fine with him even being away from her, but no one knows whether she will succeed. The mage thought about gathering power into a magic stone. If this is done, the gentleman will be safe even without the lady. The magician offered to try Charlotte, was delighted. He noticed that it was worth it. Ain asked for 3 days to discuss with the Duke. In general, they can do it right now, but it will not be very appropriate. Theo was very sleepy, so Charlotte thought so too. She put the baby to sleep. Suddenly, someone started calling Charlotte's name. It was Emma. The main character did not understand why there was such a rush, and the maid asked her if she had seen what the Keinst family had done. When they entered, Emma began to say that the Duke had prepared everything, from dresses to jewelry. And in general, this room was the best after the Duke's room. Emma did not notice the joy, so she asked if everything was fine, because the Duke cares, and she does not understand why the lady is not happy, but Charlotte said she was happy. This burdens her a little, but if she was truly in love with him, she would be happy. But this is already too much for a contractual relationship that will one day end. Charlotte thinks this is wrong. She informed the maid that she would be out for a short time, but she was surprised that her lady was going somewhere at such a late hour. The girl asked the sovereign if he was not here. The man said he was with his assistant, Mr. Chase. It was really Robert the butler. The man thought that something was bothering him, but Charlotte said everything was fine. The problem was that she didn't think she deserved it. Charlotte asked if he could tell her when the Duke would return, as she had something to say to him, and she also wants to meet the saint and asks if it is possible. It is necessary to understand why Theo is haunted by these troubles, and for this, it is best for her to ask the divine governor. She just wants to wish the Duke and Theo happiness. He agreed and said he would arrange a meeting within a week. The main character thought about whether she looked like the ears of a lover. But that's not the point, because the main thing now is Theo. A girl ran to her. Charlotte had no idea who it was. It was nice to meet the girl. Her name was Irina Renaer, and from this moment on, she will sincerely help her. Robert said that when Mr. became the head of the family, she was appointed manager of this estate. Irina asked if she had already seen the estate and offered to see it together. Charlotte was shocked, and Irina said they were leaving right now. The manager said that the Kinst family heirlooms are located in this room. It's usually closed, but Charlotte can watch whatever she wants. The atmosphere with her is completely different, unlike with Chase's assistant. They don't look alike, but they are most likely brother and sister or cousins. She called Madame. Irina said that she did not even know what she was thinking about and thought that it was about their relationship with Chase. Charlotte didn't know how she recognized Irina said, "It's better to pretend. Chase is her husband, and she is a baroness." She thought the lady thought they were brother and sister. Charlotte said she would never have thought they were husband and wife. Irina said that she also got engaged without saying anything, so they quickly arranged it. But she wonders how they met the Duke. Because the Duke was never interested in girls and now he's married, so. Suddenly, she was very interested to learn more about the Duke's personality, because he himself would never say. Charlotte understood that she could not say that everything was on purpose, and she decided to give a preparatory answer that they met at a national ceremony. 2 years ago, they literally crashed into each other, and the Duke lost the locket, which is still with her. Irina was shocked when she heard about the Duke's pendant. They only knew each other by face, and now they met again thanks to Theo, as if it was fate. Charlotte thought the story was silly. Irina noted that this story is straight from a novel. She did not understand how soon she managed to meet again after all their fate brought them together again. The manager asked if it turns out that they don't know each other very well. Yet Charlotte agreed and said that they were gradually getting to know each other better. Irina told her not to worry because she would help. The national ceremony will be repeated soon, and she offered to go there together. That way they will be able to remember their first meeting and it will be great. Charlotte agreed. In general, soon the ceremony will really come. It's probably okay to go there with him. Chase informed the master that he was the last witness, and he figured it out like the master said, but he wasn't sure if everything was okay. Carlyle said he didn't know anything anyway, and he will sneeze if the servant killed him. Chase noticed that they had a mole, otherwise his location would not have been found out. The Duke believed that the servant was right. The manor's place was vacant, so Chase thinks it's one of the maids, and he'd like to be asked to help Miss Linnea. Mr. immediately said no. The assistant tried to deny something, but the man repeated it again. Chase asked if that would be the case, even if she found out, after all, she has to become a duchess. Chase's point is logical. Well, why did Carlyle not like her at all? If she is in danger, so is his brother. That's all. The contract was made only for Theo's sake. They did not decide to send Celine to her, because it will be so easy to find a mole, Chase had to tell her. The Duke sent him away because he was already tired. He had a terrible headache, but her touch eases this pain. She must be sleeping now. He told Anne to take care of her. Looks like they all turned out well. He thought about checking for himself. He knocked on Charlotte's door, said goodnight, and said he was on his way. Emma said she thought someone was walking. Theo told his sister that he was afraid Charlotte sat down next to him and asked if he was afraid even with her. The boy said that everything was in black for some reason. Charlotte asked if he remembered the nights. Today they will say goodbye to them. It was raining, and they went to everyone. Duke had been taught to hide his feelings. and he believed that was why he was standing here now, as if nothing had happened. But it's actually not a problem. Charlotte noticed that Carlisle seemed sad. Duke told Theo that he could come over and say goodbye to Mr. Heather. He asked whether to come with him. Theo asked if he was asleep. Carlisle told him to say goodbye to him. The little boy said goodbye to his brother Knight. That's what he is. Can't just sympathize with someone or express emotions, and does not wait for comfort from others. Charlotte said the sun was shining brightly. I handed him a handkerchief to wipe the sweat with. The boy looked up at the sky. There was a thunderstorm outside. Charlotte said he just looked like someone who needed a handkerchief, and she apologized if it wasn't so. The Duke took the girl by the hand. He was grateful for the concern. He asked if she sewed it herself. Charlotte confirmed this and asked what was wrong. The Duke said nothing and promised to return it when he washed it. Charlotte was against it. He couldn't be wrong, this pattern was exactly the same as his. Charlotte was dining with Theo. She remembered how the Duke asked about the handkerchief and did not understand why he suddenly asked about it. Didn't even use it. Theo asked his sisters if they would study magic. Charlotte said that not today, because he already dealt with her yesterday. The boy said that at that moment, his whole face was shining. Charlotte noticed that when she touched it, there was no glow, but when Theo touched it, it appeared. The main character was advised to read a book about the rosette and the corresponding person. This book is in the Duke's personal collection, and if she reads it, then you will better understand who is such a suitable person, but she doesn't know if she can take it. After all, they are falsely engaged, and it is not clear whether this is possible. A young lady entered the room. She introduced herself as Selina, her escort. It was a pleasure to meet Charlotte. It is a great honor for her. The girl took out an interesting box. It is wrapped in gift paper, and inside are high-class cookies and candies, straight from a chocolate shop. Selina was sure of the taste and confidently declared that these sweets were the best in the empire. Charlotte thanked the guest, and little Theo, looking out from under the skirt, was a little confused because he did not know whether to thank the lady and him. After thinking about it, he thanked the girl anyway. Selina liked the boy so much that she smiled widely and leaned towards him. The girl added that the boy looks very cute. She said that her brother loves Theo very much and suggested that they meet. As soon as the boy heard about his brother, he immediately began to glow with happiness. The escort asked Charlotte's thoughts and added that he was currently training in the gym. The girl and the boy went to look for his older brother. Theo saw him immediately, even from a distance. The boy is currently training very actively because the national founding ceremony is coming soon, and each of the young men is very actively preparing for the fencing tournament. In recent years, the Duke of Carlisle-Hainst won the tournament. He did not want to part with the title this year. During training, Carlisle saw Charlotte, and a second later, little Theo greeted him. Meanwhile, the girl admired Hainst. The boy's broad shoulders seemed amazing to her. She hadn't noticed this before. The girl blushed from these thoughts. Selina asked if the young lady was hot, but Charlotte replied that she was fine. Theo joyfully ran to his brother and told him that he came only to see him. Carlisle offered to look at the fencers, to which the chalk immediately agreed. Besides, it won't be so hot for Charlotte. Theo's older brother had a hard time understanding Charlotte's strange behavior, but did nothing about it. Altogether, they watched the fight of two swordsmen. The boy was delighted because for the first time he sees them at such a close distance. Theo was so fascinated by watching this class that he wanted to become a fencer himself. He immediately shouted it. Carlisle handed the staff to the young boy, and he skillfully swung it in the air like a sword, while the girls only cheered him on. Suddenly, Charlotte shouted at the boy. She asked him to be more careful, but a training sword made of wood flew straight towards the young man. At the last moment, Carlisle deflected the sword, and no one was hurt. But this was enough for Charlotte to begin to worry a lot. Tears appeared in her eyes, and she wanted to meet the saint immediately. Carlisle asked if the young lady really needed to meet the saint, and the girl agreed with this, saying that she needed to do it immediately. The red-haired lady tried to calm down the heroine because she was on time everywhere. In response to this, he answered clearly and briefly that he would prepare a carriage. Already in karate, a girl with a little boy in her arms who had fallen asleep from fatigue asked if she could ask him something. For a brief moment, Carlisle looked at her and did not answer. The girl stood there, not knowing what to do. It does not even know how to explain everything that is happening to the little boy. and it is impossible to tell the whole truth. After all, she is in the book world, and Theo was doomed to die, and she cannot say it. That girl was worried that Theo was constantly getting into unpleasant situations. She thought that it would be better for him to receive the blessing of the saint. Suddenly, the thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Carlyle. He said that you are almost there. Among the green trees stood the beautiful castle of Saint Little Theo, was surprised at what a beautiful temple, and the girl and the young man were very worried. Entering the hall, they were shocked, because in front of them were the statues of the goddesses of fate. The first of them untangles the thread, the second weaves a fate from it, and the third, judging by it, decides what to do with the person next. These are three mythical creatures that are always used and fit into local folklore. The main character and the boy were met by the priest, Theonitia Teresa. The girl thanked Teresa for responding so quickly to such a request, because the matter was really urgent. And Teresa could not refuse the Duke's request, because together with him, she helps the temple a lot. Theo, seeing the worshipper, Theoka, was as surprised as possible. He suddenly shouted, "Sister, you are an angel, an angel." Our heroine quietly asked the boy not to poke his finger in the scale, but to just stand still. Suddenly, a disturbing emotion appeared on the priest's face. She was afraid that the girl would say something that she did not want to hear. When our main character was surprised and could not understand what was going on here, the face of the worshipper Theonitia suddenly changed for the better and said that she was most likely mistaken. Then the woman extended her hand to the boy and asked if it was he who needed God's blessing, and if he could give a pen. The boy was very embarrassed and reached out his hand. The woman closed her eyes and saw that they had already gone through a lot. She sincerely did not understand why the little boy had such a fate, but even with her, he was able to go through all the difficulties thanks to the goddess. After that, the priest Tioka wished that only good things happened to the boy and called him a young master. After that, the woman smiled and kissed the guy on the forehead. But suddenly, the boy unexpectedly fell asleep. The main character was surprised by such reactions. She began to worry a lot because the boy fell asleep very suddenly. The priestess of the temple replied that everything is fine because he needs to get some sleep. Carlyle took the sleeping boy in his arms and thanked him. The priestess of the temple said that there would be nothing bad to cling to the boy anymore, and all the bad things would dissipate. Suddenly, the teacher of the temple turned to the main character. She asked if she was sometimes Lady Alania. She also needed a blessing, and if they could discuss something in private. The girls passed by, and the priest looked at our heroine very strangely. Only after going to another room, the priest asked in a serious voice if the main character knew that the thread of the young man's fate was almost broken, and the young lady did not understand what thread of fate she was talking about. Teresa said that the baby passed through the door of death, and the situation was on the verge. That is why such terrible things happened to the boy. The girl asked the priest Theoitsa if everything would be fine with the boy now. The lady said that the goddess answered her prayers and restored the boy's destiny. The main character felt very good, as if a stone had been lifted from her shoulder. Suddenly, the saint asked with an angry face how they managed to survive. She knew something the woman said, that from the very beginning, our heroine was not Charlotte Linnea, but now this soul is in the hands of the goddess. The young lady was not ready for this. Charlotte expected everything, but not this. She told that a tragedy happened to her in another world. She quickly lost consciousness, and how she woke up and found herself in this world. Then the lady said that perhaps the real Charlotte's life was hanging in the balance. The girl did not know whether Teresa would believe her words. The woman assured that the lady could not worry, because she did not doubt her words and would not tell anyone. And I asked her about it only because she was really very interested in why the heroine got here. But the saint is not allowed to think even about the reasons, because the girl was brought here by the goddess, and from now on, Teresa will help in absolutely everything, only so that the purpose of the goddess is fulfilled. After that, the priestess Theonitia kissed the hand of our heroine and said, "Welcome to our world." After this kiss, the thread of Charlotte's fate will become stronger. The holiday said Theo and the girl can come at any moment. In parting, the woman asked to be more careful, because their adventures will be difficult, and the thread of our heroine's fate generally consists of two different ones, so she especially needs to be careful. She looked sadly at the girl and said that it is not known when the threads of fate may break. These words made her angry. She wanted to ask what the holidays meant, and she simply closed herself in the room. On the way home, the girl's thoughts were filled with only one thing. What did the holidays mean? And did Teresa think that Charlotte could die the same way as Theo? How many hours later, little Theo woke up in the girl's arms. He immediately turned to her. But the boy did not have time to come to his senses, when suddenly Carlyle turned to them and told them to stay as long as possible, or until he allowed. He said that they will go to the capital at the highest speed, and until they arrive, they cannot go out and open the windows. Our heroine was very surprised by all this. Her face showed how unexpected this decision was for her. Suddenly, she heard voices. Someone said that they would put a barrier on the carriage, and that it would not be possible to approach it. There were various sounds, and there was also the sound of an attack on the carriage itself. Little Theo began to cry. He was very scared because he did not understand what was happening, and the girl calmed the boy and said that she was with him and nothing bad would happen, although she herself was incredibly shocked and very afraid. Mentally, she coped with her problems. The young heroine did not know how best to do all this in order to calm the boy down, and began to sing a little song about sheep. Suddenly, everything was over. The carriage was opened by Carlyle. He said that they had arrived and everyone was safe. The young boy burst into tears and ran to hug his brother in tears. The carriage was covered in drops of blood, and the maids ran to help Charlotte because they did not know her condition. Already in bed, our heroine began to dream some strange and terrible dreams. She grabbed the bed strongly. Carlyle entered Vicky's room. He put his hand on hers and said that everything was over and everything was fine. He knew that the girl was very scared because of all this. After that, the man asked the leaders what the results of their investigation were. Carlyle heard one interesting thing: the killers who attacked the carriage again were professionals. They were definitely ordered to disrupt the life of a little boy. Somehow they knew that they would pass right there on this route, so the killer sat down in the bushes, as the village told them, and they continued to attack their target, little Theo. Amazingly, after the carriage left, 3 different maids came out, and each sent a letter. The first was Jessie. She was a cook. The second was a laundress, and the last was the servant of the owner. Hazel Carlyle ordered the scouts to focus on them, and if suddenly something is noticed, report it to him immediately. One of the spies offered to contact the owner, and Brother Theo forbade it, and said that in any case, so that it does not happen to her, it is impossible to find out about it. The red-haired girl had no idea how difficult it was to watch the maids. Suddenly, she ran into the owner. She told that she was just going to see her, and they asked how she was feeling. She replied that she was better, and asked to go with her because she wanted to talk about something. They talked sweetly about something while walking to Charlotte's hall. Suddenly, the spy saw something strange. It was the same 2 maids who sent the letter. She paid attention to them and did not show her face. Selina thought that Charlotte would not see anything, and the lady immediately directly asked if there was a spy among the maids. The assistant refused, but the lady made an evil face and asked not to lie to her. Selina was sad because she was exposed, and she let Carlyle down. She was shocked as the lady found out about it so easily. The girl said that they unexpectedly went to the church, and after that they were attacked in a planned way, which means that somewhere in the apartment there is a spy. So if the Duke still hasn't found him, then this person is not in direct contact with him, which means that these are maids. Scarlett was shocked by the deductive skills of the main character, and Charlotte no longer needed any confirmations. There was a guess because everything was visible on the assistant's face. But the lady was surprised why they didn't ask her for help earlier, because she could have become a maid. It would have been much easier to follow the others. Charlotte also asked why she wasn't told about it all at once. But here too, induction did not fail. She guessed that it was the Duke who asked not to tell her about it. After that, she immediately understood why he did that, because they are not that close, and she cannot be trusted with such a secret. But Scarlett said that everything is a little different, and it was necessary not to tell about it for another reason. While the young lady did not understand anything, the red-haired assistant continued. She shared that the Duke was worried about her and did not want her to be nervous about all this once again. The girl could not believe these words, and the assistant assured that it was all true. Charlotte was very eager to become a secret spy. For the maids, she promised that the Duke would not find out about it. The assistant has to refuse because it's all very dangerous, and she doesn't want anything to happen to the girl. But our heroine was restless because the most important thing is to find a spy. Breathing heavily, the assistant asked if the young lady still had any ideas. Charlotte said with a smile on her face that she had already thought of everything. Suddenly, one of the maids ran up to them and shouted that she was here, after which the lady said that in order to get into the world of maids, they need to use one of them. Maid came up to the blonde with green eyes. This maid's name was Ellie. The girl turned to her. The woman returned and asked what had happened to Lania's master's maid. The girl was a little confused, and then said that she wanted to ask something. The problem was that she accidentally soiled the owner's clothes, and moreover colored ones. She shared that the owner would soon go with Theo to Legis Street, and whether the maid would be able to help her with the removal of the stain. The woman assured that there was nothing to worry about, and she would easily handle it, and also promised to keep it a secret, because in such moments, you need to cover each other. After that, Lania's maid approached Jessie. She was the next suspect. The maid asked the cook to prepare a lunchbox, because the Duke is very busy, and therefore the master wants to bring him Edouin now, in the south chamber due to the investigation. The cook thought it was very sweet that the owner of the dough was very good and took care of the Duke. The maid added that Theo would also be there, so she asked to prepare 3 lunchboxes. The cook happily replied that she would take care of everything. At the end, the girl asked Jazz not to tell anyone about it because the owner wants it to be a surprise. The black-haired lady perfectly understood the request and assured that she would tell everyone that these are lunchboxes for the trip. Leaving the kitchen, the maid saw that the master was just talking to the last of the housekeepers. She asked where the Duke usually chooses his clothes. The maid happily answered that he was choosing clothes in the store on Rushi Street. The host asked Hazel to keep it all a secret because Lania wants to make a surprise for the Duke, so it's best not to tell anyone that she and Theo are going to the store. Immediately after this conversation, Emma ran up and reported that she had done everything Lania asked. The young lady was worried that something might happen to the owner because she was really going there, and the woman assured her that everything would be fine because Sir Ain would help her, and she would just pretend to go there. She told the host not to worry and added that everything would be fine, and at the end asked if the maid had prepared one thing. This thing was a teddy bear. She wrapped it in a sheet and put on a hat so that it looked like a little boy in her arms. Shusha was in the carriage. She was satisfied because she knew that the spy would be found soon. An assistant was already waiting for her in the carriage. He said that all preparations were finished. As soon as the carriage left, she took the helper's hand, and Theo transported them to little Theo. Seeing that Lania had returned, Theo happily ran to hug her. The boy missed his owner so much that he asked to hug only him. The maid asked if everything was okay with the owner. The girl answered that everything was okay, but Sir Ain looked tortured, although the boy said that everything was okay with him too. Now it remains to wait which of the carriages will be attacked. One mole was moving along the road and came across forest bandits who were hired to kill the little boy, Theo. One of them bent over the driver and ordered him to return to the fairy forest if he wanted to survive. Suddenly, the attacker saw that his colleague had fallen from the tree. For some unknown reason, fear was visible in his eyes. The driver of the wagon was an unusual person. He was a specially trained and trained master guard, so he could handle such an easy competition. The attack of the attackers was easily repulsed, and the main thing is that the spy was found. The assistant immediately came to the Duke to report everything she knew about it. She began to tell that she had given 3 different locations to the suspects, and it turned out that the washerwoman Ellie was a spy. She went to such radical measures to treat her sick parents. He was as surprised as possible. He did not understand who gave this order and who was behind it. The assistant said that the killer has a pattern on it depicting a poisonous plant, namely a hyssop flower. The Duke immediately understood that this was a guild of Diros. Ordinary robbers were not enough for them, so they went on a killing spree. The man decided to go to the Diros guild base immediately. Standing with his sword, the Duke looked at the thieves' camp, which was burning in. One of the leaders of the bandits said that during these 3 years, he never forgot the Duke's face and the voices of his comrades who died on that very day. The man asked whether the thief wanted to take revenge, because he did not even think that some thief could value relationships so much. The man ordered to tell who ordered the thief to do all this, because the guild would not be able to do such a thing on its own. But the beaten bandit replied that no one ordered him to do anything and smiled maliciously. The Duke was angry, so he decided not to play games. and immediately put the blade to the bandit's throat and asked again. The killer held on to the last and did not want to tell anything, so Hertz had to kill him. As soon as the Duke left the camp of thieves, an assistant ran up to him and said that they had taken care of everything and none of the people there survived. The Duke ordered to take the surviving documents and return. But before returning, the assistant wanted to tell about something and added that the owner Lania knows about everything. Carlyle was very surprised and even angry. Walking along the corridor, the Duke was very nervous and walked in thought with clenched fists. He did not understand what Lania was thinking about because she was involved in such a dangerous business. She had already saved Theo twice first, from a pot, and then from a sword. The man did not understand why the lady did not value her life so much. Standing in front of the door, the man promised himself to have a serious talk with her about this topic, but suddenly he realized that it was thanks to the plan that little Theo was safe. Suddenly, the Duke's thoughts were interrupted by the doe herself, who had just opened the door. There was an awkward silence between them. Suddenly, the owner said that she heard footsteps, so she decided to see who this seam was. She asked if Carlyle wanted to talk to her. The Duke said that he found out that it was she who came up with the plans with the carriage. The lady began to pretend that she knew absolutely nothing. The Duke replied that Selina told him everything, that's why he came. Our heroine was a little embarrassed and didn't even know why the assistant decided to tell all this, because they decided to keep silent. Herzog said that if at least one mistake was made, our heroine could be in great danger. Since Carlyle was very worried about her, he raised his voice and asked again what she would do. Then he wondered if the girl is behaving like this because of Theo, because if something happens to Carlyle, he will be in danger. Lania smiled and apologized. She said that she would be more careful for Theo's sake, and that she was only concerned about his safety and did not think about any consequences. Herzog said that she always causes some inconvenience, and that's why I feel indebted to her. He said that the girl can want absolutely everything because she helped him a lot. Then our heroine said that she does not need anything for this. Carlyle insisted that the girl wanted something because he would be uncomfortable. After thinking a little, the girl said that there is one place where she would like to visit. It is the Duke's personal reading room. Carlyle immediately complied with the girl's request and took her to the reading room. Dvoretsky said that as soon as she needs something, she can turn to him. Lania began searching for a book about Rosetto. She believed that such an important book was somewhere inside. She flicked through the books, running her fingers through the history of the empire, the achievements of Alexandros II, and others. But that was not the case. Suddenly, her gaze returned to the table. There was a book, and on it was a note from Carlyle himself. On the note he wrote that he had already found the right book. As soon as our heroine opened the book, she realized that absolutely everything written there was incomprehensible to her. So she went to Ser On with her. The sorcerer said that most likely the book was written in an ancient language due to the fact that it was not planned to be mass-produced. Moreover, few people were allowed to study such a thing. Our heroine asked if he knows this language. The sorcerer replied that he does and cannot explain anything because this book is straight from the Duke's personal hall, and he cannot read it in front of strangers. Lania did not understand how she should read this book then. The sorcerer said that the girl had nothing to worry about because she could always ask the Duke to read this book. She was surprised, and Sir Ain told that Carlyle knows ancient languages, and this one too. Let's talk about the family of archmages that appeared a long time ago. The Duke studied ancient languages in his youth. The sorcerer asked if his help was still needed, and the girl replied that she would handle the rest herself. Our Lady was worried in her mind because Sir Ain thinks that our heroine and the Duke are lovers, and in fact they are not close enough to each other to read books together. Later, Lania entered Theo's room. The little boy ran up to her with joy and asked if his little sister would study magic. The teacher asked if they had practiced their skills. Lania answered that she was not completely sure of herself. He asked to put his hand on the magic layer. The heroine thought about some strange feeling, as if something was coming out of her bones. She felt nothing except a rare pain in her stomach. Little Theo put his hand exactly where it hurt. This place glowed brightly. It felt like something was coming out of the body. Suddenly, the layer started to glow more brightly, just like little Theo, and suddenly everything was over. The young man was very happy, but Lania was not feeling herself. This was due to the fact that she has a very low mana threshold, Since she released a lot of mana, she needs regeneration and will get better over time. But little Theo showed amazing results, because at 4 years old, he is incredibly good at mana, and his skills will only improve with time. Sir Ain advised the owner to focus on this feeling that she felt during training in the next trainings, and then her abilities will only grow. The girl fell asleep, hugging a book, in which she still did not understand anything. The maid came to her and asked her not to sleep in the chair because it was uncomfortable, and to go to sleep in bed. But Lania wanted to talk to the Duke when he returned. Suddenly, Lania called Carlyle. He turned to her and asked why she was still awake, because it was already late. Covering her smile with her hand, the girl answered that she was waiting for him. After all, the book he gave her is written in an ancient language. Carlyle wanted to come closer to her. Then Our Lady was afraid of this and moved away. The man replied that he does not bite, and that you cannot run away from him like that. Lanaya admitted that she could not read this book, but he will answer that he knows about it. The girl's thoughts filled everything. There was one question: why then the Duke gave her this book? Suddenly, he asked if the girl had free time. Leonia did not understand what it was for, and Carlyle answered that he would read the book for her. But to begin with, they need to move to another room if it is convenient for her. Our heroine had nothing to do, so she agreed to leave. Now Carlyle said that in that case they go to the reading room. Going to the reading room, the girl could not leave the feeling that he was waiting for her to come to the reading room together. The Duke pointed to a strange sign and told that the girl needed exactly this section. Lania recognized it because Theo had the same mark on his body. Carlyle told that it was a rosette symbol, and the little boy had it from birth. A little distracted from the book, our heroine began to look at Carlyle's body and thought about whether he has such a mark on his body. Some thoughts came to mind about what a good body the Duke has, and he probably works a lot on himself. Her thoughts were interrupted by Carlyle himself, and suddenly she shouted that it turns out that little Theo was born with a rosette. The Duke replied that this was absolutely correct and amazing, because in the case of his younger brother, the mana began to move faster than the beginning of the year. Lania thought that it was most likely connected with the death of his mother. It was simply an incredible stress for a small boy that caused such a strong release of mana. The girl was lost in thoughts again, and did not notice how her gaze was focused on the Duke. Carlyle asked why she was looking at him like that, and the girl replied that she was just interested in learning something new. She asked herself what her suitable husband is, and to answer this question, you need to read another book. The heroine did not know which book she needed to find, because the library was very large. Carlyle looked at her, and seeing that she was confused and could not find the appropriate book, decided to help her. Lania was embarrassed by the fact that the Duke stood so close behind her. The girl did not feel like herself, yet she looked into his eyes and was very confused. Meanwhile, Carlyle got the necessary book and went in his direction. Lanaya was as surprised as possible by such a concession from the Duke. They continued to read the book. It was written that the mother's body changes when he overcomes death. That is when the opportunity to suppress mana appears. The husband found out that she was sick several times. 3 years ago, maybe because of this, she became a suitable person. There was no peace in our heroine's mind. She learned a lot of new information and was very surprised because she could not even guess that only after getting sick a few times you can become suitable. Moreover, it was at this time that little Theo fell into the possession of Lanaya. Carlyle asked if something else was bothering the girl. The heroine answered that she learned everything she needed because she was interested in how exactly she became a suitable person. Suddenly, the lady took Carlyle's hand and led him away, her thoughts running wild. Most likely, if all these situations with Theo were not a coincidence, but an inevitable fate, then the situation with Carlyle is identical. The next day, Lanaya had breakfast with little Theo. He is an incredibly kind and positive boy. Only one thing is unclear: who and why so badly wanted to harm him. Deros is a mercenary guild, and their leader is from the barbarian race. He was known for his anger, and most likely he was jealous of his master. So far, there was nothing to worry about, because all the enemies were neutralized. But still, you can't relax too much, because it is not known when it will happen again. Lania asked the assistants if they had not started the problem, because the Duke found out that the girl took part in the hunt for the thief. The red-haired girl said that she told everything to the Duke directly, because she cannot lie to him, and she is always scolded when she is in danger. This greatly surprised our heroine, and the assistant replied that there is nothing like that, she was mistaken, and will protect her better next time. The girl said that the Duke values Lania very much, and the heroine corrected the assistant and said that he values not her, but rather Theo. Suddenly, she noticed that Theo put aside some pieces of food. It was peas, but he didn't like it very much. Despite all requests to eat peas, the kid never gave in. He threw the peas right under the table, but he was asked not to do that again. You can't just scatter food like that. Lania said that the boy does not think that the farmer spent a lot of effort on growing peas, as well as the cook who cooked for him. If they found out what Theo was doing with their work, they would probably feel uncomfortable. The kid apologized and didn't want to finish his meal. There were a lot of thoughts in the bathroom, and she didn't know what to do to make the boy want to eat, because you can't force him, because it will have a bad effect on him. Most likely they just need to prepare food themselves, and probably then the boy will eat better. Little Theo liked this idea because everything that Lania likes, he likes too. Jenny was also very happy about this, and the children started laughing with joy. The heroine approached the butler and said that she wanted to cook food, and also that she wanted Theo to grow vegetables himself. The butler replied that if we are talking about a full-fledged farm, then you need to ask the Duke about it. Lania wondered whether to ask her about it herself, but the butler replied that Carlisle's schedule is very busy, so talking to him is another task. Lania remarked that she really hadn't seen him for a long time, and asked the butler to tell him when he would arrive today. Carlisle will probably arrive late tonight. That girl still asked to notify her about the Duke's arrival because she needs to meet him. The main character said goodbye to the butler and began to wait for the Duke because she was sure that he was supposed to return today. But it was already evening, and Carlisle was still not there. The lady was already starting to worry. Suddenly, the butler came and said that the Duke had arrived and was now in his office. Dvoretsky asked if he could take her to his office, and Lania herself knew the way to him well, so she said she would come herself. She didn't know when they would be able to see each other, if not today, so she worriedly left and froze at the door for a second. Suddenly, Carlisle himself opened the door. His purple eyes looked at the girl in surprise. He asked what Milady was doing here. Lania apologized for coming so late, and she just wanted to say something, because I don't know when the opportunity will arise. The man was very frightened. His face showed concern. Lania apologized for what was bothering him, because he was very tortured. And here she was, too, with her conversations. And the Duke said that there was no problem in this, because he works so often with bums that he forgets to communicate with people. They came to his office, and the girl sat down. Sitting across from her husband seemed very awkward to her. Carlisle's look was very strange. She seemed to have something wrong with her face. Suddenly, she got lost in thoughts and even forgot what she wanted to tell about. She was so confused that when the Duke asked her what she wanted, Lania asked if he had dined. Carlisle was surprised at such a question and asked if that was exactly what she had come to ask. The lady replied that she was just curious. The man replied that he ate a little today. Apparently, he was so busy that he didn't think about food Lania offered to eat because she really wanted to. Even though it was already late, they asked the butler to prepare something light. While the couple was waiting for food, they discussed various points. The girl noticed that the husband has been very busy lately, so he replied that he does this every day. The young lady offered to have lunch together, because one way or another, he needs to take a break from work at least once. Besides, little Theo wants to see him. But suddenly, the girl thought and realized that most likely her advice was not important to him. But Carlisle replied that he had heard everything, and later he would try to have dinner with Theo. Lania told about her observations that Theo really doesn't like vegetables and came up with a great idea how to fix it. They just need to grow these vegetables together. That's why they need to allocate a corner for the garden. The Duke put his hand to his beard and began to think a moment later. He answered that he would tell the gardeners to prepare everything. The lady beamed with happiness and was very grateful to Carlisle. It was at this time that the butler arrived with light meals. After a light snack and talking about what she needed, the girl said that it was time for her os. As soon as Lania left the office, Carlisle, who was happy a second ago, now felt empty inside. But it's not surprising for him, because he only knows how to work with papers. He looked at the girl's saucer and saw that she wanted and wanted to eat, and left almost everything. Probably she lied about not eating and left food for him. A smile appeared on the Duke's face. He covered it with his hand, and as soon as he closed his eyes, he immediately saw the silhouette of Lania, who asked him to rest. He was overwhelmed with positive emotions. Even if this feeling is not real, he is still happy. Lania was already lying in bed when suddenly she heard a strange sound. The door opened imperceptibly. At that very moment, little Theo was already running into her room. The boy hugged the girl tightly, and she had only one question. Why was the baby still awake at such a late hour? She thought that the little one had a nightmare, but the boy wanted something else. He recently planted some seeds, and now he wants to see what happens to them. The lady answered the child and asked him to sleep at least a little more. The little one happily agreed. The next morning, they went out into the garden to see what was going on with their little farm. The boy was in such a hurry that Lania began to worry that he would not fall. Even in such a short period of time, the seeds grew a lot, and Theo's eyes were full of surprise and joy. He could not even think that growing plants could be such an interesting and fantastic thing. Of course, without the help of the gardener, the seeds could not germinate in one night. Therefore, the gardener and the servants replaced the seeds with already sprouted plants. The boy ran from one bed to another and was happy because everything had sprouted. Meanwhile, Carlyle gathered somewhere. The butler noticed that today, the man got off earlier than usual. The man said that he had an important meeting today because he had not seen his younger brother for a long time. He asked where the owner and the boy were now. The butler informed them that they were now in the garden and asked if they should be called, and Carlyle decided to go to them himself. At that moment, Theo was showing Lania how big and appetizing the tomatoes had grown. They tried them together and had fun. Carlyle's thoughts were filled with memories of the mother who had taken care of Theo. Those fleeting peaceful days when she taught him to speak, hold his hands and walk. And all this idyll was interrupted by death. Little Theo experienced not only grief, but also from now on is in incredible danger, because if the mana broke its course, the boy will go after his mother. When the boy grew up, Carlyle could no longer go to the garden, because his grief is connected with the fact that he will never hear his mother's laughter, which so often sounded there. Amazingly, this year Lania came and the garden seemed to blossom. It was bright, pleasant, and warm to the soul again. As soon as the boy saw his older brother, he immediately ran up to him and began to tell about his small farm corner, where he and the owner planted tomatoes and peas. He was so excited that he immediately ran to show the tomato he had grown. Surprisingly, the man felt happy and very sad at the same time, because Lania appeared in his life so quickly, and he was afraid that she would disappear from him so quickly. He wants to hold her so hard that she won't leave for anything. The man couldn't resist touching the girl's hair. An incredibly pleasant feeling was felt both in his heart and in his fingertips. Lania asked what happened, and the Duke answered that a leaf got stuck in her hair. Suddenly, the kid ran up and showed what beautiful tomatoes he had grown. The kid was so enthusiastic that he invited his brother to dinner. Carlyle did not forget about the girl and invited her to the meal. Something also flashed in her heart. She stopped for a moment and could not let go of the strand that Carlyle was touching. At the table, they happily ate, and little Theo showed the peas that he had grown himself. It worked perfectly for you girls because the boy not only found an occupation, but also began to eat well. Meanwhile, Lania's head was filled with thoughts of whether the Duke was really listening to her words. But most likely, it was all because of Theo. At the end of the meal, Carlyle proposed to have breakfast together tomorrow. As he had urgent business, he would go first to his office. But as soon as he started, he immediately felt that he was restrained by a young lady. The girl just wanted to ask if he would mind carrot soup. There was a little awkward pause between them, after which he replied that he did not mind. Lania promised that she would make the soup, but she still couldn't move for several seconds after Carlyle left. Little Theo noticed this. He did not understand what was happening, but the girl's head was filled with the thought of why she stopped him so abruptly, as if she did not want to say goodbye. But the news came from Isaac. His writing was different from the others, because usually his hand did not shake so much. But this one is not surprising, because he can only wonder, because who would not be surprised by such a sudden engagement? Although in fact the letter is still good news, the maid thought, because she thought that he would immediately come running here after hearing this news. In the letter, Lanaya was praised for handling everything so well, and the owner said that he wanted to see her as soon as possible in a city cafe. The boy called Lania. He was lying in bed feeling very sick. The heroine approached the boy and stroked him, while the maid asked if it was necessary to call an ambulance, and the girl refused. The assistant was worried, because she knew that the Duke would be worried. But the owner said that everything is fine. She does not need to go anywhere, because the brothers will arrive directly at their castle. A luxurious carriage stopped right next to Heinst Castle, and two tall men dressed in white uniforms got out. Jack was very angry, because he thought that the Duke was keeping Lania in the castle and wouldn't let him go anywhere. His brother asked him to calm down. But the boy could not calm down. It was still very strange for him. He promised that, as soon as even one hair fell out of her, because of Heinst, he would not leave him just like that. The door opened behind it, stood our heroine. She was smiling and happily greeted the brothers with their arrival. First of all, the fussy brother shouted at his sister and demanded an explanation of what it all meant. After passing the table, he didn't stop his dust, because in his opinion, his sister was still too young for an engagement. But Lania answered that it is absolutely normal to get married at her age. At all these screams, little Theo ran and began to stand up for the girl and told them not to touch her. One of the brothers replied that they don't get involved but criticize, and in general it is their sister and not a little boy. But Theo stubbornly stood his ground and said that it was his sister. Jack could not calm down in any way and continued to argue with the little one whether this is really a sister, until Lania herself interrupted it. She said that at the age of 24, he is behaving very stupidly because he is 24, and he is now arguing with a 3-year-old child. My brother was always bothered by the fact that no one was there for so long, and then it suddenly happened, so that the girl got engaged, and she treated it so simply as if she had baked pancakes. The little boy did not like all this. He asked to stop playing with the boys and to get away from them because they were stressing him a lot. The brother asked Jack to calm down. Then he stood his ground and said that the boy continued to tease him. Suddenly, one of the brothers bought a very tasty and expensive chocolate for the little one. The boy's eyes sparkled from what he saw. The angry expression of the boy's face suddenly changed to a cheerful one because he loves chocolate very much. Lania had to have a serious conversation with the brothers, so she asked Theo to eat with Emma for now because she wants to tell the brothers something. The maid took the happy boy away, and he couldn't wait to try the delicious chocolate. The brothers wanted an explanation. Although the story was quite long, the girl decided to tell it all. It started 2 years ago when they were all together in the capital, and it was then that she saw the Duke for the first time. They were very surprised, because they could not understand how she had met the Duke so quickly as soon as they had left. They didn't really want to dig it, but Lanaya assured that it was true. At the national ceremony, she met a boy. Then it suddenly started to rain, and she did not know what her brothers were doing. The rain was very heavy, and it was clear that the cow would not stop. Suddenly, a woman looked out from the nearby cafe and asked her not to stand in the rain, but to come in, otherwise she might get sick. The owner did not care that Lanaya was wet. The young lady needed to dry and warm up. The woman shared that she had never seen girls like her. Lania said that she is from Midnight, and her brothers are knights of the capital, so she accompanies them to the ceremony. The saleswoman of the candy store said that it is not surprising that she is not from the capital, because she is not at all like the ones here. Suddenly, the saleswoman remembered something and asked to wait in the hall until she returned, and very quickly ran to another room. The woman was very worried that guests would come, and she had nothing prepared. Just at that moment, an unknown man came in with a hood on his head. Lania was not confused and greeted him by saying welcome and asked if the man was looking for something. But she didn't hear an answer. She decided that the unknown man was in no mood, so she asked about who these candies are for and how old he is. The unknown answered that the child is about a year old. Suddenly, Lania was struck by lightning. The man's low voice was permeated with grief, anger, and suffering. She didn't know what to do, and still offered a little teddy bear after asking the unknown's opinion. Most likely the man liked this gift. He touched it. The lady said that she was glad because he liked this plush toy. After packing the toy in a paper bag, she let the buyer go. Since it was raining in the yard, and it was necessary to keep the toy from getting wet, the stranger put it under his cloak so that it would not get wet. Lania understood that the child is very important to him because he handles this toy so carefully. As soon as he went out the door, our heroine shouted after him to stop. She ran out into the rain and handed him a scarf. The lady said that the rain is heavy and it will be possible to wipe it with a handkerchief. She added that the little one will really like the teddy bear, and also assured the unknown that everything will be fine, because she saw all the sadness in the boy's eyes. She gave the man a handkerchief so that he could wipe his face from the rain, but she really wanted to tell him not to hold back his tears. In this case, if the boy gave free rein to his emotions, the handkerchief helped to hide his tears. But the brothers began to ask how exactly the girl knew that it was Heinz, because his face was covered with a cape, and there are quite a lot of such bears. The lady said that he had lost the pendant she kept it, and as the second part of this pendant turned out to be in the Duke's possession, that is how they remembered each other. Jake could not believe that this was how they met a stranger again, after 2 years of separation. They did not believe that Duke Heinz could believe such a thing. After that, the brother got angry again, because I know that the Duke addresses his sister as Miss Linnea, but in reality, no lover would call his other half that way, and most likely something is wrong, and he planned something bad. Suddenly, Linnea became very embarrassed, so much so that she began to crumple her skirt from anxiety. She said that she really likes the Duke and is glad for this reunion. She is not at all sad about her choice, and asked her brothers not to worry about her. The older brother said that he listens to her choice and is absolutely on her side, although Jack did not like it very much. But that didn't bother anyone. The older brother also said that Charlotte could return at any moment, and they would be waiting for her, after which the brothers decided that they should return. In parting, Jack said that he would keep a close eye on Duke Heinz. The brother told Lania that there is no need to see them, because very soon they will see each other again. Charlotte did not understand why exactly they would meet, and the man said that very soon there would be a competition in the martial art of Kung Fu, and that is where they would meet again. The next morning began with little Theo and another boy playing on the porch, while the women drank tea and embroidered. Irina asked why Charlotte started embroidering so unexpectedly. The host, Linnea, replied that the Kung Fu competition would start very soon. Every year she gives her brothers a scarf. The woman worriedly asked if the girl would give a scarf to the Duke as well, but the host, Lania, was not sure that the Duke would accept the Kung Fu fighting competition. The lady replied that a gift is a gift, and it can be given even without competition, especially since the Duke will definitely like it. Now the main character understands her brother's doubts, because if she were a real bride, she would have first embroidered a shawl for the Duke, and then for her brothers. After considering everything, the girl replied that as soon as she finished the shawls for her brothers, she would make them for the Duke as well. Irina was very happy about this. She added that it is very nice to receive such a handkerchief from a loved one. During the sewing, the conversation continued. The lady asked if Miss would be with the Duke at the festival, and the main character answered that she would most likely stay at home because you can't leave little Theo alone. If the girl really didn't want to enter the competition, she has no choice because she can neither leave Theo nor take him with her, because I am not sure that the killers have been completely eliminated. Suddenly, the maid took the woman's hands and said that she would help her. There was a misunderstanding in Charlotte's eyes, but the girl said to trust her. At dinner, Irina, Charlotte, and Carlisle sat down to eat together. The main character began to guess what was happening. She begged God and all real and unreal forces so that Irina would do what she promised. But then the dialogue began. The girl asked what my lord planned to do on the day of the national ceremony. Carlisle briefly replied that he would visit the knights briefly to cheer them up. Besides that, he still had a lot of paperwork to do. Irina exclaimed with surprise that such a thing cannot be done right in the midst of the festival. She added that it is better to devote time to her bride. She added that he cannot even imagine how upset Iceland will be, because she will have to be alone during the entire festival. Charlotte wanted to say something to stop it all, and Irina was stubborn. She said that there is no need to talk about the fact that everything is in order, because it cannot be normal that the groom is busy with only one job during the entire holiday, especially since Carlisle met the girl at the national ceremony. Therefore, you can take advantage of this opportunity and refresh memories of the first meetings and spend time together. Although Charlotte said that everything was fine, and that nothing like that was necessary, because she did not want to distract the Duke from work, Carlisle replied that he understood everything well, and would take into account her words. They would do it exactly as she said. The man realized after Irina's words that he could not see anything further than his nose. At that moment, our heroine froze in surprise. After the morning meal, the girls left the dining room. It was impossible not to notice the smiles on Irina's face. She said that everything would be like that. That's why you should completely trust her. Charlotte thanked Irina from the bottom of her heart, because now she will be able to go to the festival with the Duke. Irina replied that there is nothing like that. She only regrets taking the little one with her, even though she could calmly look after him. But for the owner of the doe, on the contrary, it is much better, because she will not worry about the baby. Meanwhile, the maid approached Miss Irina and informed her that the carriage was ready. Before leaving, she said that Mrs. Lani's embroidery skills have really become better, even more. Her patterns are of such high quality that she receives the highest praise. Our heroine was embarrassed by such a flurry of compliments. Although Mrs. Lania had many doubts about the quality of her work, Irina said that her work is really beautiful, and if even now she puts it up for sale, she is sure that at the same moment there will be a huge queue of people who want to buy her product. The woman asked to show the product to the maid. Mrs. Lania was embarrassed and involuntarily held out her shawl. Hazel looked at this product. She was very surprised by the quality and beauty of this scarf. Although the pattern reminded me of something, Charlotte replied that it was a traditional pattern of the Barony of Lania, and it would be quite difficult to find something similar. The maid said that she had definitely seen something similar on the fabric. It was embroidered with dark blue threads, and what she saw was pinkish purple. The lady who served the lord put this handkerchief in order. With this embroidery, the girl remembers how he ordered to wash it with special care. Charlotte was very surprised by these words that the maid said. But after thinking about it a little, she realized that most likely it was this handkerchief that she gave when she met the Duke 2 years ago. Irina quickly ran into the milord's office and aggressively began to ask what the hell this handkerchief is that he has had for 2 years, and what is its place of origin. Carlyle was surprised by this information because he did not tell her this. The man asked Irina how she knew about it. The girl replied that it is not important. Now she needs to know from whom he got this handkerchief. Mr. Heinst ordered to stay out of his business. Irina could not calm down. She could not believe that 2 years ago the Duke made a promise to some other woman. The angry woman said that Mrs. Lania knew about everything, but it was nothing special for her husband. While the woman was waiting for an explanation and screaming loudly, Mr. Heinz decided to deal with everything himself and asked Irina to leave the office. The woman listened to him, but when she was going away, she said that if Miss Lania wanted to break off the engagement, he should not dare to contact her, because she would not help him for anything. The bespectacled man asked the Duke what had happened, because the woman looked very angry. Carlyle replied that there was nothing wrong with it. The assistant reported that all preparations for the national ceremony were completed, and he also fully prepared comfortable places for watching the fireworks show, which little Theo is very much looking forward to. Remembering the conflict that had just happened, Heinz smiled, because it seemed funny to him to break off the engagement, because no one would allow it. The day of the holiday has come. The little boy was very happy because today he will see fireworks. Mrs. Lania dressed the boy in ordinary, inconspicuous clothes, so as not to attract too much attention. Heinz appeared suddenly. He was dressed in high pants and a white shirt. Although he promised to dress as informally as possible, he still looked very businesslike. His younger brother ran up to him and asked for his hand. He was very happy because today he will spend the whole day with his brother. Carlyle turned to Lania and said that all the preparations are completed, so they can go to the holiday. Walking through the center of the city, the festival was at its peak. Clowns, many people, various exhibitions, and interesting things. The kid's eyes widened from how diverse and interesting everything around him was. But the main character did not notice, because she could not believe that the unknown person to whom she gave the handkerchief would turn out to be Heinz. The girl finally dared and told the Lord that it was thanks to him that she was able to enjoy the atmosphere of the national ceremony again everywhere for such a long time. And she also noticed that Theo was having a lot of fun. Only one thing seemed strange to her. Carlyle did not take his eyes off her for a moment. Suddenly, the girl saw the very place where she crossed paths with the unknown, and gave him a handkerchief. The owner herself was also there, and the girl ran up to her with joy, and the woman received her just as warmly. They were very happy to meet each other after such a long time. She asked who those two were behind her. Had the girl already managed to get married? But Charlotte replied that the lady did not understand everything that well. Their sweet conversation was interrupted by a woman screaming for help. Her purse was stolen, and the thief ran straight down the road. Carlyle reacted instantly and said that he would be right back. The owner of the sweets shop said that pickpockets thrive because there are many easy prey during the festival. The woman asked to wait for her boyfriend inside her. Theo really wanted to get there, so they were not happy to go to the sugar shop. The shop owner noticed that the boy was very cute, but she was more interested in the relationship between Lania and the man who held the boy in his arms. Charlotte replied that he is just her acquaintance, and this child is his younger brother, and he became very attached to her, so it was decided that she would look after him for a while. Our heroine said that, for now, she settled in the capital, and as soon as her work is completed, she will return to her small family in the barony of Lania. The owner of the store asked herself whether she understood correctly that this is the same barony of Lani, which is located at the very edge of the kingdom. Now it became clear why they could not find her for so long, because the man to whom Charlotte sold the teddy bear came to this store again in the winter and said that he was looking for her, asking about her place of residence. Mrs. Lania was very worried about what exactly the saleswoman said. The woman replied that they also met for the first time, so she did not know anything about the young lady. Charlotte became interested in whether the woman knew the name, or where the same man who was interested in her lived, but despite all the questioning, he did not tell the saleswoman a single drop of information about himself. Although this man seemed a little suspicious to her, because 2 years ago it was raining, it was completely logical that he would appear in a hood, but when he came the second time, it was sunny in the yard, and he covered his face again. The owner of the store thought that if it was an ordinary person, he would not hide himself from prying eyes, so she is sure that his conscience is not clear. Just then Carlyle came in. He had to fumble a bit, but it all worked out. Little Theo was offered to continue the walk, because now his brother is back, and he has had enough fun. Charlotte thanked the owner of the store, and said that thanks to her, they had a wonderful time in the store. The woman only asked to visit more often while they were in the capital. Having deviated a little from the topic, the saleswoman offered her to meet her son, because Charlotte is a very beautiful and kind girl. But in one moment, Carlyle interrupted her. He said that there will be no such chance, because she is already engaged to him. The owner of the bench was shocked, because a few minutes ago she heard that it was just her acquaintance. Charlotte did not want to explain anything, so they quickly left the store in parting. The girl said that she was very happy to see the owner, and would definitely come to her again next time. After leaving the yard, Charlotte asked Carlyle why he remembered their engagement, but he did not give a clear answer. On the contrary, he asked the opposite, whether Charlotte sometimes has some special reason why she wants to keep the fact that they are not a bride and groom a secret. Carlyle looked as if he had eaten his lunch in an instant and stopped just as quickly when he heard the answer, but his face still looked pouty. Suddenly, Theo asked to return because he wants to watch the fireworks. Since the sun will soon set below the horizon, you need to choose a convenient place where you can clearly see the entire salute. As soon as they arrived at the right place, the boy fell asleep without waiting for the fireworks. She never managed to wake up the boy during the fireworks. At the same moment, Carlyle handed Charlotte a handkerchief. Our heroine thought that it was the same handkerchief that she handed him at the funeral ceremony, but in fact it was the same handkerchief for the unknown, and it turns out that the same man who was supposed to cover the face of whom she met in the store was Carlyle. The man asked if the girl remembered meeting him 2 years ago. That day, the sky was very densely overcast, and the Duke himself felt an endless sense of anxiety. He fled behind the mansion precisely because he could not cope with the bad news. He thought about Theo for a long time. From all this, he began to suffocate as if a huge stone had been placed on his chest. The man was sad because Theo at that time was a newborn child who had not even once been told by his mother, and he did not understand how to explain all this to him. Perhaps the reason was that he remembered Theo again, but in the end he went to a toy store that happened to catch his eye. It was there that he met Lania, in whose voice there was a strange power of magic that at the subconscious level forced him to open his mouth and obediently answer questions. And her parting phrase, "Don't worry, because everything will get better," sowed such a pleasant feeling of peace in his heart, filled with anxiety and doubts. The handkerchief seemed to be filled with her warmth. Carlyle saw Miss Linnea as a strong and kind person who, despite the pouring rain, was ready to please some stranger. When he saw the handkerchief held by her at the funeral ceremony, he realized that the person he met 2 years ago was Charlotte. From that day on, he constantly expected to meet her. Here, our heroine's breath stopped because she also remembered every time she saw the rain outside the window and really wanted to meet him again at least once. At that very moment, when the girl spoke these words, dozens of fireworks lit up the sky. All words were covered by the echo from the fireworks. The girl understood that in the future, another world would open before her. The next day, Theo and the boy were playing together again, and Charlotte sat on the porch and thought it all over. Irina pushed the girl and asked how everything was going and whether she had a good time at the festival. Lania answered that it was thanks to Irina that she had a good time. The woman replied that she was jealous of Charlotte because this is the same time of dating one of the most beautiful relationships Theo and Denny ran to the women. Seeing how Irina was playing with her son Theo instantly became very sad. Full of tears, he went to Charlotte and hugged her tightly. The whole day after this incident, he walked like water, although all the physical signs were normal, and he still did not look well. Lania offered to read a fairy tale to the boy, namely The Adventures of the Rabbit Toto. The boy's face brightened a little. Last time they stopped at how Toto went to his grandmother with a request from his mother. Just at this moment in the fairy tale, it was getting very dark, and the grandmother was worried about her grandson because she did not know if he would be able to reach home safely. Toto replied that he would easily reach home and set off on his way. As soon as he entered the forest, a strong wind started, and the bunny heard a wolf nearby. The little one in Theo, at that moment, was very worried about the hare and was rooting for him to return home as soon as possible. Frightened, Toto started running towards his house and suddenly caught on a stone and fell. He cried out of terror and started calling his mother. Hearing Toto's voice, his mother ran through the dark forest to take him home, and at home, she read him fairy tales while stroking his back. Just at that moment, the hare thanked his mother for coming in a difficult moment. Theo cried a lot because of this, and Charlotte did not understand why, because she thought that the boy was very worried about the fate of the hare. But in a rush of tears, I asked you why Toto has a mother and he doesn't. And in the daytime, Toto has a mother, but little Theo does not. Only now did the girl understand why the boy walked around upset all day. Charlotte offered to come to Theo's mother together. The girl opened one side. Behind her was a wonderful portrait depicting Carlyle's parents and him as a child. The little boy saw this picture for the first time. Charlotte said that this woman is his mother. The boy wondered where his mother was now. The girl told the story of how he had recently said goodbye to his night brother, just as old. Long ago, when he was very small, his mother was also forced to say goodbye to him. Theo asked if it is possible that he will not be able to see his mother again. Miss Linnea answered that it is true, but nevertheless he should know that she loved him very much, loves him and will love him. Because of all this, the boy cried again, leaning on the woman. She added that, although he will not be able to meet his mother, but whenever he wants to see her, they can come and look at the portrait. Something surprised her in the portrait, namely why Carla is not sitting in the middle. Rubbing the picture a little, she suddenly saw another person wearing a pendant that Carlyle later gave her. Theo enthusiastically asked Mrs. Lana who this person was who suddenly appeared in the picture. In an instant, a family that was not there before also appeared on the column. It was Edgar Heinst. I know who it is because I read about him in a book. He is the eldest son of the Heinst family and the twin brother of Carlyle, who died 16 years ago. Suddenly, the butler ran in and asked in fright what they had done with the picture. The man ordered not to tell anyone about what they saw today. He asked to leave the room because he needed to put it in order. Putting the boy to bed, Charlotte covered him, and she said that he didn't have to see his mother. He continued that, even though he said goodbye to his mother and all that, he has a sister and a brother, he is completely safe. The woman supported his opinion and added that he should not be sad, because in this case, she will also be sad. Charlotte thought that what she saw in the family picture could not be a mistake. The boy on the left is definitely Edgar Heinst. In the original, Edgar died as a child at the fault of Marquis Petrion's family, as he was mistaken for Carlyle. Marquis Petrion aimed directly at Carlyle because he was Rosetto, but Edgar looked identical to his brother before and was the victim of the attack. After that, all the details of the incident were revealed, and the family of Marquis Petrion was exterminated. But the real problem was Carlyle, his mother, embarrassed under the weight of guilt and grief, and the realization that Edgar died because of him. For the sake of saving the last living son, the late Duke and his wife decided to erase Carlyle's memory so that he would not remember either Edgar or the rosette. If they had not done so, they would have lost him as well. Charlotte understood that the story about Edgar was not something she should be bothered with. Moreover, Carlyle is unlikely to believe in the existence of an older brother about whom she does not even remember anything, but she still wants to tell something about the portrait. Until recently, Charlotte considered herself an outside observer who could leave the audience at any moment, and now that is no longer the case. He knows that the man was honest, and she wants to be honest with him as well. Although she cannot become his real wife, no one forbids her to be a real friend for him. Miss Linnea knocked on Carlyle's office and told him there was something she needed to know. Milord invited her to him, saying the passages. He wondered why Mrs. Linnea had come to him in the middle of the night, maybe because of what had happened that day. Carlyle asked if the girl had come to talk about the incident that happened today. Lania. I thought that the butler told everything, and wondered if Carlyle was talking about him. A question appeared in Carlyle's mind, because he had no idea that the butler would have to tell him something. Charlotte said that she should have been the first to tell, but she seemed to be one step behind. She apologized for showing little Theo a portrait of his mother. Lania continued that this is probably some reason why he does not want to show Theo the portrait, but the boy misses his mother very much, so she decided that it would be right to show this portrait. After all, it seemed that he endlessly wondered why he did not have a mother, so she showed that he has a mother who loves him endlessly. Charlotte again apologized for having voluntarily approached the portrait with the boy, but she simply could not silently look at the boy's upset face. Carlyle asked if Theo was happy to see his mother's face. Charlotte replied that he was incredibly pleased with it. Seeing the mixed feelings on Carlyle's face, the girl decided to leave him alone to think it over. In parting, she said that she should have said about it, and again apologized for the night visit to him. Already at the door, Lania heard how Heinz thanked Theo for his support and care. She said that she didn't need to thank her, because she just did what the boy wanted. Wishing good night, she left the office. Although there was one more thing that really worried her, and that was that she did not tell the story about his twin brother Edgar. Although she understands that hiding something seems bad, but she is not sure that she will ever be able to tell him about it. From all his thoughts, the Duke came to Theo's room. The little boy was sleeping, stroking his face. Carlyle thought that showing his mother to the boy would hurt him even more, and he had a crystal heart, so he once again tried not to dwell on this topic. Although in fact, he himself understood that it was all just an excuse. He lacked confidence all the time, so he remained silent like a real coward. Little Theo suddenly woke up. Carlyle apologized for waking him because he didn't want to disturb his sleep. That child smiled and said that they didn't even have time to have dinner today, so he was very happy to see his brother. Carlyle asked about his brother's emotions, about them going with Charlotte to his mother. The kid replied that his mother is very beautiful. He added that he used to miss his mother, but now everything is fine, because he has a brother and a sister, and he loves them very much. Theo asked if they would all live together for long. Carlyle replied that they would always live together. Carlyle thought about how easily he answered Theo's question and realized that this thought had been in his head for a long time. On a subconscious level, the man wanted to always be by Charlotte's side, although in reality, it was his strongest desire. He continues to think that it is possible that the same woman who gave him the handkerchief will be able to warm him and Theo with her warmth and smooth out their loneliness. The next morning, the butler greeted Lania. He needed to show someone around. He introduced Sir Roandro, a mage who has long been at the service of the Heinz family. He was the one who sealed Carlyle's mana, and most likely he was the one who erased the memories of Edgar. The sorcerer greeted and shared that he had wanted to meet Charlotte for a long time. The girl replied the same, but asked what the reason for his visit was. Suddenly, the man noticed that Theo was still afraid of him. Roandro said that recently the young master had to face many difficulties, so he came to check his mana. But the kid avoids meeting him every time, so he asks for help. Lania just needed to get the boy in her arms and hug him tighter. The sorcerer showed where to sit and somehow strangely exchanged glances with the butler. Doubt appeared in the doe's head, and remembering the original story, she assured that the man was endlessly devoted to Carlyle, so he would not harm the boy. Lania reassured Theo and said that this is just a test, and after it is over, she will give him a chocolate bar. The kid held out his hand, and at the same moment the man began to check his mana. Lania again began to feel something in her stomach, as if something was moving. Suddenly, Theo was thrown directly onto the sofa, after which the sorcerer took Lania's hand and began to say some kind of spell. But Lania did not want this. Some strange energy filled her body. Something strange was happening. Suddenly, the sorcerer and the butler began to ask the girl what exactly she remembers, what she saw in the room. Lania immediately understood that they were checking her, so she lied that she only saw a portrait of Carlyle's already deceased parents and him as a child. The sorcerer, Roandro, asked if the girl had seen anything else strange. Lania said that she had not seen anything like that, and asked what they meant. The sorcerer smiled and said that it was nothing special, after which he added that he had done his job, so he had to leave them. In parting, he said that he hoped that they would have the opportunity to meet again, and Lania replied that she was very grateful that he was watching for that, and wished to be careful on the way back. After that, Charlotte ran to the boy and started shaking him hard. She was worried about him and asked him to open his eyes. As soon as the boy woke up, Lania asked if he remembered that they went to see his mother yesterday. Theo replied that he saw his mother and father and his older brother, who was very small. Lania wondered if someone was sitting next to Carlyle in that picture, but the kid didn't understand what she was talking about. At that moment, she was absolutely certain that their memory of Edgar had been erased, just as Carlyle's memory had been erased. Still, she could not understand something. Surprisingly, the spell did not affect her, and most likely it was because of the same energy that she felt inside herself. If the question is related to magic, then she needs to ask a sorcerer about it. Charlotte said that yesterday, Theo dabbled in magic, and when she tried to stop him, she felt the movement of mana in her body. This seemed strange to the mage, because there is no record of a suitable person capable of using nullification magic. The boy caused a fire in his hand and asked him to put it out. Lania thought about the feeling of mana moving somewhere in the stomach area, like yesterday. Suddenly, she felt something but quickly turned away and saw that nothing had happened. The young sorcerer assured her that there was nothing wrong with this, because the annulment of the spell was unusual magic, and he recommended that she allocate more time in the future to practice with him. All day, Lania was not herself. Her face showed that something was wrong. At dinner, Carlyle asked his younger brother what had happened, and Tao replied that his sister was in a bad mood and needed to be corrected. After thinking a little, the kid ran up to the girl and asked to look at a beautiful picture with his mother, father, and brother. But Lania thought that Carlyle was not yet ready to see this picture again, but suddenly he agreed with the boy. Theo ran ahead. Carlyle was supposed to follow him, but he stopped for a moment and called Charlotte with him. She noticed that something had changed, because earlier it was difficult for the Duke to talk about his late mother. Seeing the picture again, the girl was sure that they had removed Edgar from the picture again. Carlyle's face showed that it was still difficult for him, and he still lacked the courage to look his mother in the eyes. After all, his mother is the same person he misses, and at the same time, memories of her cause him pain. The girl took his hand and said that everything is fine if he does not have enough courage. Yet then there is no need to try to overpower yourself, because mental wounds do not heal so easily. She asked not to pretend that she is coping, and that everything is fine with him, because she is afraid that it will only get worse. The lady added that if they were together, the man would definitely feel better, so Carlyle could return to himself. Suddenly, he took Lania by the hand and said that he is also completely fine as long as they are together. After that, the man approached the picture. Theo pointed a finger at the woman and said that the mother is very beautiful, and the elder brother confirmed all this. Carlyle's expression was at once as sad as it had been on the same day 2 years ago, but also somehow different. It was as if sadness remained on his face, but a faint smile appeared, which definitely means that the wounds in his heart are healing a little. Now he looks relaxed, as if he realized how futile his attempts to suppress his pain were. She was pleased to see that the family members he tried to forget were returning to his heart, but still someone remained outside his heart. As in the past, no one knows about him. He remains completely alone again. Lanaya again continued to practice nullification magic with Sir Ayn, but there were no special results. The young sorcerer advised to sincerely make a wish. It was a rather ambiguous phrase. After that conversation, Teo went to look at the portrait of the Duchess every day, and the fact that Edgar, who was always forgotten by everyone, greatly disturbed Lanaya. The butler called my lord and said that the table was set. Charlotte saw how closely Robert was watching her. It seemed to her that he was checking to see if she remembered something she shouldn't have. It was at the same time a calm but also stressful everyday life, as day after day flew by, and the martial arts tournament was approaching. The girl met with her brothers again. She said that she will not be able to attend the tournament because it is impossible to properly provide security due to a large crowd of people. This greatly angered the brother, because this should not be a problem for those who bear the ducal title. He wondered if the skills of the Duke and G-Knights were in such a bad state. But Charlotte said that it's not about that. But she just doesn't want to cause extra trouble. Jake could not calm down at all. He said that if the girl continues in the same spirit soon, she will not be able to go anywhere at all. He asked if this is how she wanted to spend her whole life, being closed within the four walls of the mansion. In this situation, the second brother Isaac agreed with Jake's words. Charlotte is very confused, because even Isaac agreed with her brother's words, but she cannot go to the martial arts tournament because she is worried about Theo and cannot explain it in any way. One of the brothers added that Saint also constantly attends the martial arts tournament, so you shouldn't worry too much about all this. After thinking a little, Lanaya realized that this could be an opportunity to ask Saint Teresa about the magic of annulment. Jake took up his position again and added that he will attend the tournament, even on holidays, and Lanaya says that she will not be able to. He believed that these were all the whims of the Duke in order not to let her out of the mansion. Suddenly, in one moment, Charlotte said that she would go. Her brother's face was surprised, because a minute ago she was categorically against it. The girl assured that she would definitely attend the martial arts tournament because she thought everything through and came to the conclusion that her brother was absolutely right. Lanaya smiled back and still didn't know how to tell Carlyle about it. At one of the dinners, the girl looked intently into the Duke's eyes and could not find a moment to tell about the news. Even Carlyle thought that recently the girl wanted to tell him something, although there is no need for her to whine like a little puppy, because you can just say everything at once, because in any case, his answer will be positive. He asked if the girl had any problem. Charlotte said that she wants to give the Duke a handkerchief. It is her gift to him, because even though he does not participate in the martial arts tournament, she still wants to give this handkerchief. Carlyle asked if she really made this embroidery personally to give it to him. Lanaya replied that it was all true, and although she was not skilled enough in manual work, she had done a very troublesome job. A sincere smile appeared on the Duke's face. He gladly accepted this gift. Lania added that there is no need to look for some hidden meaning, because she was just doing embroidery on scarves for her brothers, and decided to make an additional one for him as well. Even so, Carlyle was very grateful for it, because somehow she had made this embroidery with him in mind. Charlotte was a little embarrassed, but she was very happy that her husband liked her gift. Finally, she dared and added her request. The girl said that this year, her older brothers reached the finals of the martial arts tournament, so she would like to visit the arena to cheer for them, and she is very worried about Theo. Carlyle wondered why the girl was so worried. Lania answered that there are a lot of people in the arena, and there is commotion everywhere. She is afraid that she will lose Teo in the crowd. In addition, there may be those people who want to get rid of him. Herzog said that she had nothing to worry about because he would personally protect her. And Theo Carlyle assured that on that day, you only need to enjoy what you see. Although the Duke said that he would protect the girl without any clear meaning, her heart was beating incredibly hard. Arriving at the arena, little Theo was surprised because the arena looked incredibly huge, and he also saw so many people for the first time. Seeing the boy's happy face, Lania understood that she had done the right thing. The heroine's gaze fell on the crown prince and the saint. She did not expect that she would occupy one of the three special places among such important people. All this is the influence of the Heinz family, and they are accompanied not only by knights, but also by Sir Ain. Since these are special places, the security here is especially vigilant. Looking down, the boy saw Ms. Lania's two brothers, Jake and Isaac. He wished them luck and asked them not to get hurt. Meanwhile, Carlisle watched the situation around him and saw that Charlotte and Theo were having a good time. But among the crowd, it seemed to him that there were some suspicious people. An unknown silhouette appeared for a second and suddenly disappeared. The ceremony began, and His Majesty the Crown Prince began his speech. He thanked everyone who was present at these games and wished good health to all participants. Since Theo did not understand much from this speech, he asked Charlotte to explain to him what the Crown Prince said. After that, Saint Teresa took the floor. She blessed everyone and wished that accidents would avoid them, after which she sprinkled small sparkles on the arena. The martial arts tournament had officially begun. While the crowd around them shouted and watched intently, the strange hooded man was getting closer and closer. Mrs. Lania and the boy sat and watched everything. The girl was surprised, because it was the first time she saw a battle from such a close distance. Meanwhile, one of the assistants could not calm down. She was in awe of the knights with their sword swings and defensive actions. But to others, it seemed like basic skills that any knight possesses. Charlotte herself heard the argument of the assistants. She asked how they managed to come here. The girls answered that they appeared here recently, because as soon as they found out about Theo's presence, they couldn't help but come here. Charlotte saw a strange feeling on Carlisle's face. He was very worried and was scanning the entire horizon. The duel between Sir Isaac Lania and Sir Elliot began. Theo again wished him luck before the duel began. Suddenly, he came up, grabbed Charlotte by the shoulder, and ordered her to immediately leave her place and move to a safer place. And Selena will protect them. At the same moment, there was a loud explosion. The crowd around became very nervous and started running and screaming in panic. The saintly lady and His Majesty, the Crown Prince, began to lead many guards to safety. Little Theo was very worried and afraid, and Charlotte assured him that everything was fine, and Selena had to take them to a safe place. As soon as they got to the door that led to the exit, they were blocked by magic. Sir Ian tried to open it, and his magic failed. Carlisle ordered Charlotte and Theo to be teleported to a safe area, and he would somehow manage. He spoke as if these were his last words, and he would never see Charlotte again. The girl asked why he was talking like that, and he said that everything would be fine with him and there was no need to worry. During the teleportation, Miss Lania handed Theo over to the sorcerer and left the circle herself, after which Sir Ain and Carlisle's younger brother teleported. The Duke was very angry because Charlotte's safety worried him very much. He could not allow her to be lost, because even the thought of it scared him to no end. They held hands, and Carlisle promised that he would protect the girl to the last and do everything possible to leave this place safely. At the same moment, Carla's layer of fire flew over them and covered the girl with it. Having received severe injuries, he asked Mrs. Lania to go to the exit. A fiery storm appeared behind the man and approached them. Time was running out, and she had to make a decision to either leave Carlisle and save herself or use the canceling magic, and she wasn't sure of the second. Everything she decided that she could not live without Carlisle, so she used the cancellation magic. Perhaps the danger was the key factor in the fact that the magic worked and everything worked out. In the dough, the fiery tornado dissipated in an instant. Carlisle was surprised because he did not expect that the fiery whirlwind would disappear instantly. Meanwhile, Lania collapsed from impotence. The girl woke up in her bed. She felt a pleasant coolness touching her face. It was Carlisle's hands. He was very happy to see that the girl was coming to her senses. But Charlotte was only interested in whether Carlisle was okay. The girl was crying, and this moment was very sensitive for them, because the two of them sacrificed themselves for each other. Due to so many emotions and experiences, the couple hugged each other and did not want to let go of each other. The man said that everything was fine with him. From the very beginning, the wound was not serious, and thanks to the filling from the holy blessing, not even a small scar remained on his body. Theo was also safe, added the prince. Still, Charlotte wondered how things were going with Emma the Senorita and her brothers. Carlisle patted the girl on the cheek and said that you cannot worry about her, because thanks to her, everyone is whole and unharmed. The holiday came into the room. She was really waiting for Lania to wake up. She asked my lord's permission to speak with Charlotte alone. The saint wanted to know whether something had happened to the girl before the act of turning magic into nothingness. Sviat added that it was Charlotte who solved the situation that arose. Our heroine was very surprised, because in her opinion she could not dispel such strong magic. The saint smiled and said that it was all true. Besides, the girl was able to solve it all without using canceling magic. She remembered the words she said earlier about the fact that the thread of Charlotte's fate consists of two, and that she needs to be careful. At that moment, Teresa did not yet understand what our heroine needed to beware of, but now it all became clear to her. The fact is that if a girl uses her power, there is a blow to the thread of fate, as a result of which she becomes thinner. If this power is used, the thread of fate will break, and the girl will die. Charlotte asked how to act in such cases, because most likely there will be many more threats to Theo's life and hers, and she will have to use this power again. Teresa said that the presence of people whom she wants to protect further prohibits the use of this power, because at such a rate the girl will not be able to stay alive. Teresa said that she was already forced to leave, the girl, and Charlotte herself was in despair. She did not know how to behave and how to gather her thoughts. Suddenly, little Theo ran into the room full of tears. He missed her a lot and was worried about her. The maid, who thought that something had happened to her, also ran after the boy. She was also very scared. They were so worried that they both fell by the girl's bed and began to cry a lot, because they did not know how they could survive such a loss. From the words of the maid, Charlotte learned that they decided to keep her power a secret. Our heroine asked where Sir Ain was, and after teleportation, he exhausted all his strength and lost consciousness. He has only recently come to himself, and is most likely talking to the Duke. Carlyle was talking to Sir Ain. He was wondering why the spell holding the door didn't dispel the world of his sorcerer's power. He had a lot of questions because it turns out that he was supporting a sorcerer who can't even open the door. Carlyle ordered to tell the whole truth about that day. He grabbed his sword and ordered to hurry. The man approached the sorcerer and suspected him. He wanted to know absolutely everything, because maybe he didn't specifically use magic to destroy them all. Sir Ain swore that he was not guilty, and that the whole situation was much deeper and needed to be understood for a long time. The last thing the sorcerer could offer was his oath of loyalty, and if he is a traitor, then his heart will be torn apart. With these words, the sorcerer assured the Duke that he was not guiltier. After that, Carlyle began to think, because Sir Ain is one of the most talented wizards in the Empire, and he couldn't do anything with that spell, which means that there is an even stronger wizard that they don't know about. After that, Carlyle took his head and said that the wizard can leave. Just at that moment, Carlyle's subordinate entered the office. The Duke asked himself whether he had found out who this bastard was, who dared to do such a mischief. The subordinate had information, and a suspect. The case was about Maurice Fedoro. This is a disciple of Sir Rowandro. He did not understand how a disciple of such a bright person could make an attack. But the subordinate said that the one who committed such an attack during the tournament was a difficult, self-confident sorcerer. The powers of this mage are so powerful that even Ain's spells were powerless. This means that sorcerers of this level must constantly report on their movements and activities. At the moment, nothing is known about the exact whereabouts of Maurice Fedoro. He ordered that from today the residence will become his location, and added that it is necessary to prepare everything for the move. Charlotte, meanwhile, was lying in bed with little Theo. It is clear that he suffered a lot because he took care of her. While she was unconscious, he took care of her in every way, and after she regained consciousness, he constantly gave her water and personally supervised her. In a dream, the boy asked Charlotte not to leave him alone. The girl thought it was very cute and kissed his head. Entered the room, he was worried if everything was okay with the girl, and he couldn't find a seat, so he decided to check it out himself. He was glad to see the girl healthy and unharmed. Charlotte replied that she was almost back to normal. Carlyle said that it was a little unexpected, and that she wouldn't mind moving into his residence. Since this place is protected by a magic circle, they will be much safer there. Charlotte asked if it was because of what happened at the tournament. The man confirmed that it was the main reason. Carlyle added that the head of the guild, Diros, who previously wanted to kill Theo, said that the Duke had made many enemies throughout his life. The man was troubled by the thought that Charlotte and Theo were in danger and felt guilty for it. The girl took his hand and said that he is not guilty of anything because last time it was Carlyle who saved her, and not someone else. The Duke's face showed strange emotions. He was deeply surprised. Charlotte asked if everything was fine with him, and asked to see where it hurt. Carlyle believed that it was not necessary, because everything is fine with him. He is more worried about her. Charlotte stood up sharply and said that everything was fine with her, and that she was as strong as a nut. Mrs. Linnea began to ask if Carlyle was laughing at her, because she could see it in his eyes. But the Duke replied that he had never allowed himself such a thing. Meanwhile, Theo muttered something again. A little later, the baby said in a dream that he wanted chocolate, and this made the couple laugh. In the morning, Charlotte met with Aine. She trained again in the magic cancellation spell. The fire in the magician's hands disappeared. He was very surprised, because the girl is not under the spell, but seems to block the mana in the body of the spellcaster, probably because she is a suitable person. But Charlotte didn't find it strange, because that day she blocked Roandro's very mana. It was similar to calming Theo's magical power. Later, the maid came to Charlotte and said that everything was ready for her departure. The girl was already collected. What she learned here gave many answers, but gave rise to even more questions that will have to be solved in the future. The girl came out in a beautiful new outfit. Theo and Carlyle were happy to see her. The man asked if the girl had said goodbye to her brothers. The lady replied that she had heard enough of their mutterings about her safety. Charlotte was surprised, because Carlyle even cares about her brothers. She is surprised that no one understands what a loud man he is in front of them. Together, they became a magic circle and teleported. A moment later, Charlotte saw the Heinst family estate. It was of incredible size and beauty. Inside, there were many fountains, greenhouses. Everything looked like a fairy tale castle. Charlotte could not come to her senses because there were so many interesting things here. Carlyle thought it was funny and covered his smile with his hand. Mrs. Linnea noticed that he was laughing at her again, and little Theo asked him not to do that again. Carlyle immediately put on a serious face and said that there was nothing like that. He added that she was wrong, like last time. Sir Roandro approached them. He was glad to see Carlyle in good humor. He also greeted Mrs. Linnea separately and added that they had not seen each other for a long time. Surprisingly, the sorcerer again checked whether Lanya remembered anything about the portrait. As soon as his doubts disappeared, he apologized and said that he accidentally remembered a case that was not related to her because with his age, his memory began to fail often. This angered Carlyle. He hoped that the wizard would not answer the same questions he would ask later. At the table, the Duke asked where the magician's apprentice, Maurice Fedora, was. The sorcerer asked why he was interested in the location of that child. He ordered the old man to clearly answer the questions posed, especially since the words of the Oath of Loyalty were engraved on the mage's heart. The sorcerer replied that the child was looking for a suitable person. He said that he did it so that they would be ready for pleasant surprises, because you never know what can happen. Carlyle wondered why the old man hadn't told him about his plan. The old man did not want to answer for a long time, but still under the pressure of the wing, he said that it was the order of the late Duke, and he could not answer anything else. A strange emotion appeared on the owner's face. He did not understand what his father could be hiding from him, and in the Duke's opinion, such an operation could be dangerous, because during the report, the fact that Theo imagines a rosette could be revealed. Carlyle ordered to summon Maurice Fedora immediately, because he needed to know something. A boy entered the office who was angry because his teacher told him to work harder a week ago, and now he is distracted from his work. Nevertheless, he must fulfill the teacher's will. Suddenly, the young man heard Mrs. Laney and little Theo doing something in the greenhouse, and he wondered what kind of woman's voice it was. He looked away and realized that he was seeing this girl for the first time. The boy saw the magician's apprentice and asked who he was. The young man happily replied that he was studying with Mr. Roandro. Just one surname of this old man, Theo immediately began to hide behind his skirt. But the young sorcerer apologized and said that he did not want to scare the little one. Lanya wondered if the young man knew Sir Aine, but in the young man's head, there was only a field of how beautiful Charlotte was. He was delighted with her silky hair and shining eyes. Without thinking for a long time, the boy took Miss Lanya's hand and asked if she would like to start a close relationship with him. There was silence for a second in the hall. The girl did not understand what was happening. As soon as she came to her senses, she gave a loud cry of incomprehension. Theo ran up to the young sorcerer and wrestled the young lady from his hands. Morris wanted to justify himself and prove that he is not a bad person, moving the haircut back. He hit Carlyle. He asked why he had arranged such a thing here. Anger was visible on the milord's face. The young man did not understand why he was behaving like that. Monsieur Roandro asked where his pupil's manners were and ordered him to say hello to his lordship's bride, Charlotte Lania. The frightened boy understood absolutely everything. The young man was shocked by the fact that he confessed his feelings to the Duke's bride. Carlyle ordered to follow him. Meanwhile, the sorcerer's apprentice had already said goodbye to social life. The three of them sat down at the table. Carlyle asked if the student had come to the capital a week ago. Maurice was surprised and replied that he did not come. He was wondering why the Duke was asking about it. The young man learned that the attack was carried out on that day. He was very scared, because His Majesty, the Crown Prince, and the Saint were present there. He asked himself who could do such a thing. The Duke replied that he was just trying to find that bastard. The boy added that he must be found and executed. Carlyle agreed with him and said that as soon as he saw him, he planned to cut his throat. Enlightenment came to the young man. He realized that it was him that the Duke suspected. He immediately fell to his knees and began to swear that it was definitely not him and that he was not involved in the incident in any way. But Carlyle had no reason to believe him. Then the guy added that a week ago he was in Dallas because he was ordered to find a suitable person. Carlyle wondered if there was anyone who could confirm this. The young man was so frightened that he replied that the teacher had ordered him not to reveal his whereabouts. He turned to the teacher, and he was silent. Carlyle threw the casket at the young man's feet and ordered to open it right now, depending on whether it opens or not. It will be known whether the young man is a fearless freak. The boy had many thoughts in his head. He was very worried he did not know how to act in this situation. Maurice hesitated for a long time because he did not know whether opening the casket would make matters worse or whether it would clear him of all charges. But Carlyle knew that the casket is not simple because some time ago he specially closed the casket for them with the help of one of his strongest spells. And among those who can use this magic equivalent to Ain's magic is only Maurice. He is the only one whose whereabouts on the day of the tournament were unknown. If the boy managed to open the casket with his magic, he would have to pay with his life. The boy tried with all his might, but he could not open the casket because the spell was too strong. He began to beg for mercy and say that it really wasn't him, and he wasn't there. The sorcerer, Roandro, added that if the Duke continues to suspect the young man, he will prepare everything for the oath of allegiance. Maurice almost lost consciousness from such tension. He sincerely thanked and wanted to leave. But Carlyle asked him to stay, but his teacher himself decided to leave the office. The Duke asked how things were going with the search for a suitable person. The young man replied that the search was not successful because it is difficult to find someone who fits all the criteria. The man wanted to know more. The student said that he was a suitable person. This is the one who experienced death, who once really stopped breathing. Carlyle was shocked because it turns out that Charlotte had to survive death. The student added that besides him, there is someone else who is looking for those who were on the verge of death. This conversation left Carlyle with more questions than answers. After this conversation, the man asked if the young man had learned anything about those people who stopped the attack. The young man replied that he wanted to do this and was called to the residence. Despite this, he has guesses the young man has heard rumors about a young lady named Penelope Ohane. About 7 years ago, she fell into the water and almost died. Carlyle guessed that she might be the right person. The young man confirmed this and added that there was a good chance that those people would also be heading to Lady Ohane. Carlyle ordered to collect information about her and let her go. In parting, he added that he should not dare to appear near Mrs. Lania if his life was important to him. After this conversation, he was deep in thought. It seemed that everything was just getting better, and then all the problems started again. Feeling a characteristic pain inside, he realized that the day of his mother's death was coming soon. Carlyle had missed a meal for the second day. Meanwhile, Theo wondered why his little brother wasn't having breakfast with them. Lanaya answered that he now has a lot of different things to do. Suddenly, a maid ran into the dining room and told Charlotte that she knew why the owner refused to eat. Hearing this, the girl suggested that Theo come to Carlyle and eat with him. Having entered his office, they put delicious food for him and offered to eat together. Carlisle replied that he wasn't hungry at all, and Theo didn't understand why, because he hadn't eaten since yesterday. He thanked Charlotte and declined. The girl had her own reaction to this. She said that if he won't eat, then neither will she. She added that she, as a friend, cannot watch this in silence. This manipulation was successful, and the Duke began to eat. But during the meal, he thought about his relationship, because until now, they had not agreed who was for each other. Theo shouted a lot because it was raining. It made the general situation worse, because Carlisle was already depressed, and the rain added to it. The girl tried with all her might to diffuse the situation, but apparently even the heavens themselves behave this way, because they know about the anniversary of the death. It was only 2 years ago that the boy lost his mother, and to be honest, it is quite a short time to heal the pain of loss. The Duke's face was the same as 2 years ago, small and vulnerable. Lania told Theo that she would leave him with Emma, and she would go to his brother and return. It seemed that wounds that do not heal are about to knock him off his feet, so she could not help but go to him. The girl wanted to support him somehow, but she didn't even know what words to say to her husband to comfort him, because the wrong comfort can make the wound deeper. She saw that Carlisle was holding back tears. Even at a moment like this, he couldn't bring himself to cry. The man added that today it was pouring like a bucket. He could be alone, so he said to take Theo. But before he could finish it, he suddenly saw that Charlotte was crying. He suddenly turned to her and asked what had caused her tears, but she said that he would not believe it. The girl added that she does not want him to hold back tears until his eyes turn red. She wants him not to pretend that nothing special happened. She asked to just cry, taking his hand. She said that everything will be fine. The girl added that although it will take a little time, eventually the day will come when the sun will peek through the clouds. And one day the time will come when the cold and unbearable pain in the soul will pass. Charlotte said he can cry whenever he wants. After these words, the man's eyes filled with tears. Immediately after that, he hugged her with all his might. After the mourning ceremony, they sat together on the steps. Charlotte could not look at him, although she wanted very much. Suddenly, Carlisle thanked, and the girl replied that it was not necessary, because as a friend, she should support him in a difficult moment. He directly asked if she thinks that they have only friendly relations. The girl apologized because it seemed to her that after the martial arts tournament, they became closer and could be called friends. Without saying anything, Carlisle knelt down and kissed her hand. After that, he asked to think a little and say again if they are really just friends. The girl had a lot of memories. She didn't know what to do. Suddenly, she saw that the mana that had been sealed inside Carlisle's body was released. In the original, the seal was broken after Theo's death. But due to the fact that he is still alive, most likely the seal itself begins to collapse. However, their situation is different from the original work, so now that Penelope is not around, our heroine is the only one who can do something. The next day, our heroine wanted to concentrate in order to learn how to manage her energy. She thought about the streams of mana moving through her body. She almost succeeded, and it would seem that with a little more effort, and the spell she practices will come true. But as always, at one point she fails. She practiced for several days in a row, but not a drop of progress appeared. The girl was sad because of it. Suddenly, she was visited by little Theo. He shouted, as if seeing her was a betrayal, and ran to hug her. Charlotte smiled at the boy and asked how he was taking care of his kindergarten. The child replied that he copes with it perfectly. Suddenly, the boy excitedly said that he had a question. He first sat on the girl's lap and asked what she loved most in the world, besides him. Charlotte thought a little and suddenly remembered that she loves flowers immensely, namely the yellow flowers that bloomed in Lania's house where she lived before. He asked if this is the same flower embroidered on his sister's scarf. After learning the information he needed, the boy quickly ran away. Our heroine laughed at this. The boy has been asking a lot of such questions lately. The lady focused again on her task. She still could not make the magic stone. It was a good decision to turn to someone for help. Suddenly, an incredible idea appeared in her head, and she even wondered why she hadn't thought of it earlier. The girl chased Maurice, who had a ban on communication, and any stay with her. Fearing for his life, he was afraid to even look at her rather than approach hers. Rondo's student informed the lady about this and said that he would not come close under any circumstances and did not say why. While running away from the lady, he unexpectedly slipped and fell. Charlotte caught up with him and asked if he was all right. The young student asked the woman why she was so stubbornly pursuing him. The girl smiled and said that he was the only one who could help her. The young man looked at her scared and confused. Linnea managed to tell about her problem, and the young man even knew how to solve it. But as soon as he mentioned Carlyle, he immediately got scared and said that he could not help with anything. He added that in order to help him, he needed to take her hand, and if the Duke found out, his head would fly off his shoulders. Charlotte assured him that he should not worry because he is not one of those who will pay attention to such trifles. Although the student thought the same, and everything turned out to be wrong. Without thinking long, the girl forcefully took the student's hand and asked what to do now. The young man looked at her in fear. He did not know what to do, and Linnea asked him to help. The girl said that she would keep everything a secret from the Duke. After a moment of reflection, the student realized that he had no other way out, so he said that this should definitely remain a secret from him. Charlotte said she would keep her mouth shut. The student was grateful for that. They held hands, and Theo saw it. The enraged boy immediately ran to Carlyle's office. Not understanding what the situation was, he told his brother that the magician's uncle was holding his sister's hand. At first, the Duke did not understand who exactly took his bride's hand and thought it was Ain. But Theo said that it was another magician, although he did not know his name and recognized him well. Malak said that it was a mage with hair the color of snow. Carlyle immediately understood who he was talking about. Watching how Maurice ignored his warning, he was sure that the student had completely lost his mind. The man started scrolling through different thoughts in his head. He decided that he needed to take different measures. Theo looked at the handkerchief that Linnea had given Carlyle. It depicted the same flowers that grew in her ancestral home. The boy asked if his brother got this handkerchief from Charlotte, and he agreed that it was from her. Carlyle said that he wanted to give the girl a gift in return. Meanwhile, Ain was practicing together with Charlotte. Suddenly, the moment where she always failed was successful. A blue stone formed in her hands, but a second later, the stone disappeared as well. It was strange, and for Ain, he encountered such a thing for the first time. Carlyle entered the room. He asked Charlotte to give him some time alone. The girl thanked Aina for today's help. He replied that there was no need to thank her, and promised to find a solution as soon as possible. Our heroine thanked a lot and said goodbye. Carlyle angrily looked at the magician, and he did not understand what had happened. He was very frightened and ran away sharply. The couple was headed through the greenhouse. The guy wanted to show something and hoped that the girl would like it. Opening the door in the greenhouse, our heroine saw a whole field of yellow flowers, the same ones that could only be seen in the Lania fiefdom. She was shocked that this was all set up by Carlyle. He admitted that Theo told about how much the girl misses home. Tears came to Lania's eyes from joy. The husband asked her not to cry, because he showed these flowers not to make her sad. That girl said that these are not tears of sadness, but tears of joy, because she is very grateful to him. But the gifts from Carlyle did not end there. He wanted to give something else. Pulling out the box, it contained a diamond ring. He began to tell that at first he did not understand why, but now he managed to understand his feelings. He made sure to the end that from the moment she reassured him by crying like a baby and saying that everything would be fine. Although such words are often used in conversations, it was unusual for him to hear them because no one said such phrases to him. Cold and intolerable days may come again in his life, but if at such moments the girl will be next to him, then he believes that everything will be in order. He asked Charlotte to give his hand, but suddenly our heroine became very upset. She said that she cannot be a good couple for him because he should meet another person, not her. She thinks that it would be much more correct to preserve friendship. But Carlyle was not surprised by such answers and said that the girl just needs time to understand that she is the most suitable couple for him. He handed her a box with a ring and said she could wait as long as she wanted. A large amount of time passed. Many maids walked around Heinz's estate. All of them looked worried, and each had her own business. Our heroine appeared with a ring on her hand. She also checked the list to see if everything was prepared. All of a sudden, Ellie ran up to her because the birthday cake had just been delivered. Miss Linnea was relieved, and the cake was delivered without any problems, especially the chocolate one that Theo loves so much. Suddenly, the maid said that another gift had been delivered. The girl could not understand what kind of gift it was. Suddenly, someone touched her from behind, and the lady was very frightened. It was Irina and Danny. They came to make a surprise for Theo on his birthday. Charlotte was very grateful to them for that. She added that you will be glad to see them. A little boy, today's birthday boy, came running. He was very interested to see the gift that had arrived. As soon as the babies Denny and Theo saw each other, they immediately shouted each other's names, and a moment later they ran to hug. Women have not seen children so energetic for a long time. Charlotte added that Irina did the right thing by coming. They sat at the table while the children played in the garden. The lady remembered the old days when the children, a little smaller, played in the sand, just as they do now. Irina turned around and saw that there was now a bunch of beautiful yellow flowers in the greenhouse. They reminded her of the same flowers that were embroidered on Charlotte's scarf. The girl asked if it was the Duke's initiative. Lanya said that it was the Duke's idea because she misses her hometown very much. A moment later, the woman saw the engagement ring on the ring finger of our heroine. In addition, it is with a blue diamond, and it was very difficult to find such an ornament. Lanya, I didn't even know this, and Irina told me that it's hard to even count on the fingers the number of jewelry workshops that do such delicate work, because there are almost none of them. Irina added that most likely the Duke values Charlotte very much if he decided to express his attention in this way. She noticed that they looked great together. Charlotte now understood why Carlyle asked her to wear this ring, because otherwise the others would have doubts about their engagement. The girl suddenly realized that after the same conversation, she did not have to cross over from Carlyle. It's strange, because just after sneaking into someone else's heart and causing a storm of emotions, he immediately disappeared from sight. Although this is logical, because she refused him, and seeing her would be uncomfortable for him. From all these thoughts, the girl covered her face with her hands and could not regain consciousness. Irina did not understand what was happening to her. Our heroine justified herself and said that she was just very worried because the celebration of Theo's birthday would soon begin. Nevertheless, the girl had something to worry about because Carlyle will be present at the birthday party. The main holiday began. He was delighted with how big and beautiful the chocolate cake was presented to him. The maid and everyone who came to his birthday began to congratulate him. Everyone began to present their gifts, and Mrs. Lania was the first. The kid is glowing with happiness. He wanted to open this gift immediately. Opening the box, he saw a soft toy. When he took it out, he realized that it was his favorite character from fairy tales, namely the main character of his favorite book, The Bunny Toto. At that time, Carlyle entered the room. He also had a present. The smile on his face disappeared when the man met Charlotte. He greeted her coldly, but seeing the ring on her finger, he smiled again. He sat down next to his brother and congratulated him on his birthday by handing him a gift. The kid couldn't resist his curiosity, so he started to open it too. Amazingly, he was given another Toto bunny. The pair looked at each other and laughed. Theo, meanwhile, was very pleased to have two bunnies. Many people were present at the holiday itself. The children ate unlimited sweets and looked very happy. Surprisingly, our heroine was quite sad during the day, which was filled with a huge amount of joy. She finished her drink and decided to freshen up on the terrace. On her way to the exit, she almost slipped, but Carlyle caught her. He asked if she was okay. The girl was embarrassed and replied that everything is fine. The man offered her to go out for some fresh air. The girl replied that she was just going to do it. Walking to the exit, she felt Carlyle holding her and saying that he would go with her. The man added that although he was ready to wait as long as necessary, he said that he did not want to let go of her hand, even for a moment. He also promised that, from now on and forever, he would give her only the best. He said that there are too many people present here and asked him not to turn him into an emotional guy who is not even able to see off his bride. The girl could not argue, so she agreed. The two of them went out on the terrace. It was a beautiful evening by the sea. Carlyle wondered what Charlotte was thinking so much about. The lady told what she was thinking about her own birthday and about the seaweed soup that her mother made that day. But she couldn't eat that seaweed soup because she was late for class in the morning and didn't even touch it. If she had known that this would be the last time, she would have behaved completely differently and would have eaten it all with pleasure and would have thanked her without fail. She misses her mother very much. She burst into tears. Carlyle wondered why she didn't say anything about it if she missed her so much. She said that even if she misses her, she will never be able to see her, and even if she talked about it, she would want it even more. The man hugged her, and the girl began to cry into his shirt. Carlyle apologized because she missed her family very much, and he didn't even think about her once. She looked in tears and hugged herself the next morning. She woke up in her own room. It's strange because she doesn't remember how she got here, but suddenly she heard a familiar voice. It was her brother's. Jake was, as always, very noisy and very happy to see his sister Isaac, demanded from him to be more reserved. Immediately behind them were Charlotte's parents. She was incredibly happy to see them all. They all sat down at the table together. Our heroine asked for what business the whole family came to the duchy. Mom said that the Duke urgently sent a person to them and prepared a carriage to take them to the Duke's residence. Senior Mrs. Linnea said that she felt how much Carlisle valued the girl. She used to worry a little about it, and now she sees that the worries were useless. The heroine understood that Carlisle had made his conclusions and invited her parents. She added that he is really very noisy. Her father said that he heard how the girl was injured during the martial arts tournament and asked if everything was okay now. Lania replied that everything is fine now. Jake, as always, could not calm down and said that his sister lived so far from them, and when they arrived, he was not even happy about it. Isaac again remarked to him and asked him to answer his age. But suddenly, Jake told that Isaac himself was worried about his sister and talked about her every day. Suddenly, Carlisle entered the room. Theo was happy to see him. Mr. Heinst thanked Linea's family for making such a long journey to get here. But the girl's father said that there was no need to thank, because it was Carl who took care of the fact that they were able to use the mana portal. The couple exchanged glances at them. There was a sincere smile. The Duke apologized for interrupting their conversation because he had come to say hello and would now leave them again. Then Linnea asked him to stop. She added that she was sincerely grateful for all this, and it is incredibly nice for the planted flowers and for inviting members of her family to the residence. The man was happy to hear this and was ready to do anything for her. Suddenly, little Theo called the hostess Linnea and told her to come back as soon as possible, otherwise he would eat all the chocolate. The couple said goodbye, and Lania was never able to just take it and leave. Amazingly, Carlisle really kept his word. He was ready to do absolutely anything for her. During the week that the family was in the Duke's residence, she really had the feeling that she was at home. She felt as if she had found another family. Late in the evening, when she turned off the light, she saw that Theo had opened the door. He bent over her on the bed and said that he was afraid. The little boy could not sleep because he was worried that wolves would come to his room. Charlotte assured him that he could not worry about it and offered to sleep together. She covered the baby and said that everything is fine because Toto and she are nearby. Still, the girl could not understand because something like this was happening behind the door. She put on her house slippers and wanted to go check. But Theo said that you can't go out because it's a ghost that howls and knocks. Charlotte was so scared that she got goosebumps. Suddenly, she started knocking. Theo was very scared, but she assured him that everything was fine and that the door should be opened. Suddenly, Carlisle appeared at the door. The tension dropped, and she was glad that it was him and not a thief or someone else. She told about the ghost, and because of that, she was nervous. Miss Linnea told Carlisle about his little brother's fears. The kid looked really scared and was clinging to the girl. He looked at her and, realizing that everything was fine, said that he was going to see you. But Theo asked to stay with them because he was afraid. Charlotte added that Carlisle could stay until he fell asleep. The Duke apologized for not entering the room and getting into bed. Theo fell asleep, and Carlisle wondered if Charlotte had said goodbye to the family properly. The girl said that they had a wonderful time here, and she also believes that even 100 times is not enough to sincerely express gratitude. Carlisle said that it was not necessary, seeing that Theo fell asleep. He decided to get up and go to his place. Suddenly, Theo pulled Carlisle through the dream, and he fell right on top of Mistress Linnea. They found themselves in a rather unusual position and became very embarrassed. The whole atmosphere and emotions led to the fact that they were about to kiss. Suddenly, the Duke pulled himself together and said he was leaving, apologizing. Mrs. Linnea was left alone, completely red and full of emotions. Meanwhile, Mr. Heinst could not believe that he had behaved like this after promising to take his time. His assistant saw that something was wrong with him and asked what was wrong with him, and Carlisle replied that everything was fine. They have so far made no progress in the search for whoever is behind the attack on the martial arts tournament, although a very detailed investigation is underway. It is practically impossible to bypass all sources of information. All empires and thieves somehow manage to do it. Someone wants to kill Theo for some unknown reason. Meanwhile, the thieves did not rest. The unknown man in the raincoat demanded explanations from the subordinate because he did not cope with a single task. The subordinate began to justify himself, saying that the mansion of the Heinsts is under the influence of ancient magic, and therefore physical and magical attacks are impossible there. Until the Duke leaves the residence, it will be difficult to attack. The leader of the bandits got tired of hearing this because he thought it was an unimportant delusion and took out his sword. Immediately after that, the subordinate began to ask for mercy, but he killed him. He asked the rest of his subordinates for their opinion on whether they agreed with their dead comrade. One of the subjects told that it was easier to get into the residence by himself, and whispered a detailed plan in his ear. The man said that this was excellent advice. To make his plan a reality, the thief in a cape took out a red stone and ordered to send this valuable thing with a messenger. Meanwhile, Charlotte practiced magic again, and she was again haunted by failures. She forgot about the same moment several times. As soon as the magic stone takes a magical form, it immediately shatters into pieces. Ayen also did not understand why this was happening, because if the girl did not have the ability to create magic stones, then she would not be able to give him a form. But her stone has clear contours. It is strange because Charlotte's mana does not manifest itself as magic. It is used only to calm the mana. The sorcerer thought, and said that most likely the process of making a magic stone for such people should be different from others. In other words, something is missing to complete the ritual. The girl sat in thought, because in the original story, Penelope did not need any special ingredients or circumstances. She never had difficulties in creating magic stones. All her time and attention was given to taking care of the mansion, or spending time with Carlisle, which is basically the same thing she's doing now. However, it turns out that one condition is missing, due to which she cannot create a stone. The lady was angry. Ayen thought about going to the master's library. He added that perhaps there are books about a suitable person that will be useful. Charlotte and Carlisle went to the library and started looking for a suitable book. The man got one and said that it would be the most suitable because it was related to magic stones. When handing over the book, the couple touched each other and were very embarrassed. Charlotte remembered the same situation when Carlisle was on top of her in bed, and they meet for the first time since that incident. The owner asked why she suddenly started looking for books about magic stones. The lady replied that she wanted to make a magic stone to give to Theo. She asked if Carlisle was sleeping well, and if he didn't have headaches. He replied that he was fine, and that he was more worried about them and Theo. He shared that he recently received a message from Maurice. He found someone who is looking for a suitable person. This is a boy with blue eyes. The man added that if our heroine sees a blonde with blue eyes, she should immediately run away. Carlisle asked where Theo was now, and the girl answered that he was having a daydream. The man asked to warn Theo about this as well, just in case. A strange silhouette was looking out the window, watching the little boy. Immediately after that, he woke up and saw a kitten. It was unusual with large blue eyes and a red collar with an emerald in the middle. The kid was very happy for him and wanted to pet him. The child thought that it was very dangerous for the cat to be alone. Theo wanted to open the window and remembered the words of his brother, who forbade him to do so when the boy was alone in the room. The kitten meowed and the baby melted immediately, opening the window. As soon as the boy touched the strange stone on the cat's collar, energy was released. Charlotte and Carlisle sensed something was wrong. They immediately went to see Theo. The maids could not enter the room, no matter how hard they tried. The door could not be opened. Theo was locked inside. As expected, a strong spell was placed on the door, but Charlotte managed to break it with her power. Ayen immediately entered a magical battle. Everything around him was burning with fire, created with the help of magic. It was created by the young master Theo himself. Despite all the warnings from Teresa about the danger of using a special power, Lania still has to save the boy, even at the cost of her own life. Mrs. Lania said that she is going to look for the boy, because if he had a mana discharge, she should be with him. Carlisle could not let her go there alone. She protected him with a magical barrier, and they went into the room together. The couple saw a boy crying on the floor where everything was on fire, but they agreed to run on the count of 3. Running through the fire, the girl grabbed a little boy who was in tears. But another problem appeared. She could not calm the flow of his mana. Meanwhile, the boy was in a lot of pain. Suddenly, Theo lost consciousness. It all seemed very strange. The girl plunged into thoughts she did not want to be weak as in her past life, she wanted to help and save everyone. Suddenly, Carlisle's mana began to resonate with Theo's mana and calm him down. Carlisle said that everything is fine now and kissed Charlotte. After all this, he started talking to his mages during the examination of the room. A magic stone was found on the collar of the already dead kitten in Theo's quarters. The sorcerers investigated and found out that this is a special stone that increases the amount of mana for a while, and it also means that the thief knows that the boy is a Rosetto. His purpose was to provoke a release of mana. The Duke became angry. But this was not the last news. The magic of image transmission was also applied to the stone, so the enemy could see absolutely everything. Based on this, most likely the enemy already knows that Lanaya is a suitable person. Meanwhile, Theo was walking away from this whole nightmare. He was sick and dreamed of all these silhouettes in the fire. As soon as he woke up and saw Charlotte next to him, he calmed down. As soon as he woke up, he immediately hugged her and told her that he was very scared. The woman reassured him and said that now everything is fine. As soon as the baby calmed down, he immediately fell asleep, and Mrs. Lania felt guilty for leaving him alone. Carlisle immediately came and calmed the girl, saying that it was not her fault. The man informed her about the bad news, namely that the enemy already knows who is a suitable person. Carlisle was worried about the girl and said that she might be in danger and apologized. That lady said that everything is fine because she signed the contract from the very beginning, knowing that she could be in danger. Besides, she is not some coward who runs away from incomprehensible things. Carlisle was surprised by such an answer. He greatly admired her courage and kissed her hand. He added that, even though he knows what kind of person she is, he asked to be given the opportunity to protect her because he is ready to do anything for her. The senior magician said that Ain also took an oath of loyalty to his master, so he will most likely be sick for a few days, because the spell associated with binding his heart is quite difficult. Carlisle was bothered by the fact that Theo couldn't sleep for several days in a row. It seemed that he kept thinking about that incident over and over again. The teacher said that there is one very effective tool, namely sealing the memory of the moment of the fire. Moreover, the memory is not erased artificially, so the risk is small, and it seemed like a bad idea to Carlisle. The old man assured that he had personally seen a similar case, so everything would be fine. He added that the memories had been sealed for more than 10 years, and no problems had arisen. After thinking a little, he realized that Roandro would not cause any harm, because he swore loyalty to his father. He agreed and gave the go-ahead for the ritual. Suddenly, a message from Maurice arrived on the magic bullet. He said that the whereabouts of Lady Penelope O'Hane is unknown, and she still cannot be found. Carlisle said that it didn't really matter, because anyone would do, preferably someone who could defend himself like Sir Heather. Duke thought, because if he is going to send Charlotte home, then he has to find a suitable person for Theo. They need to be ready for any unexpected situations. Suddenly, he felt very sick. He grabbed his heart, but suddenly an unknown voice told him that everything is fine and something is next to him and will protect him. He did not understand what kind of voice it was. He dreamed that someone was sitting on the sofa. He did not understand where these people came from. The man saw a picture of two boys talking to each other. It was him and his brother Edgar. It was all very strange because this happened for the first time. The man was shocked because he began to dream about something unknown. Meanwhile, Lania watched over Theo. After Theo's memories were erased, it became even harder for him. The woman promised that she would be there when she once again needed to look fear in the face. Sir Ain ran into the room, immediately ran and put the magic stone in the hands of the girl. Charlotte began to feel her own mana, and miraculously, on the day of the fire, Ain found this stone in Theo's room. Without knowing it herself, the girl managed to create a magic stone. It is strange because during practice she also used mana, but could not create anything. Most likely when it sensed Carlisle's mana, that's when it managed to create a magic stone. Although she seemed to understand the principle, she told Ain that she had no idea how it happened. If she had reported such information, then most likely Ain would have understood that Carlisle was a rosette. But one way or another, the girl is incredibly happy because she finally successfully managed to create a magic stone. She wanted to make a bracelet with this stone for Theo. Carlisle's mana is also unstable, and she would like to make another stone, and didn't know if there was another way to do it. First, she needed to see if she really reacted to Carlyle's manna like that. Meanwhile, the Duke fell asleep. Amazingly, he seemed to have moved into the room he used as a child. He saw two boys on the couch. One of them, this is him, little Carlyle was crying because everyone almost got hurt because of him. This seemed like a strange situation for him, because he had the feeling that he was also a Rosette. But he was constantly reassured by someone, another child, who said that he would protect him. Suddenly, in his dream, this child looked into his eyes and asked the same thing, and he was startled and woke up, and his manna became unstable. He was forced to find Charlotte for comfort. As soon as he takes her hand, his incredible pain will stop immediately. He went out into the corridor where Mrs. Lanaya was. She saw that something was wrong with him, and he was in pain. Therefore, she immediately ran to him, and his pain subsided. The man was as hot as fire. It was the result of the manna surge. The girl took his hand and begged all possible forces to calm this tsunami. Theo was very worried about him, so he immediately ran up and hugged him. Carlyle apologized for making him worry and looked much better. Suddenly, the Duke unexpectedly grabbed the girl's hand. Theo, noticing this, said that he was also holding his sister's hand so that he would feel better. The girl offered everyone to hold hands. While putting his younger brother to bed, the man noticed the bracelet that Charlotte had woven with her stone because she had recently managed to make a magic stone. The lady said that thanks to him, she was able to achieve success because on the day of the fire, she wanted to calm Theo down and would be strong. But after she hugged her husband, she was able to create a stone. She wanted to try it again, so asked for a hug if he didn't mind. Like that time, she asked to concentrate the mana on the palms. Just like that time, the girl felt warmth that filled her whole body. Suddenly, a beautiful blue stone appeared between their hands. Finally, the girl solved the secret of how to make stones. Carlyle was surprised that the girl was happy, in his opinion, such a normal thing. But in order to get such a result, I had to spend a lot of time searching for an error. The man asked what she would use this stone for. The girl said that even though they are engaged, only she has a ring, so she wants to make a gift for him in the form of a ring. Also, this ring will not only work as a disguise, it will help keep Carlyle safe. He thought it was funny that the Duke's safety was important to the girl. The girl asked not to tease. The Duke, grabbing a lock of hair, said that if she didn't want him to tease her, then she didn't need to be so charming. He wished her a good night and said that he would look forward to her gift. Our heroine was very embarrassed by all this. Meanwhile, my lord examined his finger and could not even think that he would ever wear a wedding ring. He believed that until the end of his days, he would not wear any ring on his ring finger. But the thought that Charlotte would give it to him warms his soul. Suddenly, Robert urgently ran into Carlyle's room with urgent news. Someone from the imperial family had arrived, and Carlyle needed to read the message urgently. It was an invitation to the ball, and an order from His Imperial Majesty that he was obliged to attend it. Strangely, the man had an ominous feeling, as if someone had set traps and was waiting for the right time. A whole meeting was gathered. Aine knocked on the table and said that it does not make sense, because there is no imperial decree on such an insignificant case, and it does not make sense. It was obvious that this was a trap, and someone really wanted him to come there. Aine insisted on his point. He said that you can't go to the ball because it's a trap. The Duke's aide said that he understood his feelings, and that refusal would be regarded as disobedience to the Emperor's orders. Said Chase was right, and he should be there. If they set a trap, he will fall right into it, and will be able to meet the owner of the trap. Aine objected to this, saying that it was risky. But Carlyle said that the greater the risk, the greater the chance that everything will turn out to be successful. He didn't want to listen to anything else, so he ordered his assistant to prepare everything so that he could leave already next week. Charlotte intervened and said that in that case, she would go with him. Carlyle said that it was dangerous, so he refused her. And the girl replied that this is exactly why she would go with him. If the opponent has magic, she must go with him, because anything can happen, just like in competitions. Aeon agreed with the girl and said that if there is a magician there, the girl is necessary. The Duke ordered the assistant and the magician to leave, because he needed to speak with the girl alone. He took her by the shoulder and said that it was very dangerous, and the girl replied that she would be careful. She asked to help him, but my lord asked to watch out for two people at the ball, namely Penelope O'Hine and the blue-eyed man. There is information that he is looking for her if they come to the ball together. You need to be on guard. The girl's facial expression seemed unusual to the man. He asked if everything was okay. The girl was upset because she knew what it was about. And this is the same ball at which Penelope and Carlyle will meet for the first time. On the day of going to the ball, our heroine dressed in a suitable dress. Theo and Ellie were delighted because she looked like an angel. The maid added that she looks like the main character at this ball. And Theo was so excited that he ran to hug her. Carlyle was also very smartly dressed. Theo couldn't take his eyes off him because he was glowing. The maid invited the little boy to the garden and left the couple alone. Carlyle complimented the girl and said that Charlotte is incredibly beautiful. She replied that the Duke also looks good today. The man replied that if he looks great in her eyes, then this is already a success. The lady suddenly ran somewhere asking to wait. Charlotte got the engagement ring she wanted to give it earlier, and it came only today with the dress. The girl put a ring on the man's ring finger and asked him to promise that he would never take the ring off no matter what happened. They held hands, and Carlyle promised not to take the ring off. The man asked if the girl was ready for the trip, and they held hands and went straight to the trap. The ball was beautiful. There were a lot of carriages, but you can't rest because now is the most stressful time, because it is impossible to predict what will happen in a second. As soon as they entered the hall, they immediately announced their arrival. Everyone began to discuss the couple among themselves. Many did not expect such a union, because the girl is from the village. No one could believe that Duke Heinz would marry for love. The man asked not to listen to what people were saying. He added that the girl can focus only on him. After thinking for a while, Lady Lanaya answered that she would do so. The son of the Empire himself, His Majesty the Emperor, began to speak. Everyone bowed their heads in his honor. When he ordered everyone to raise their heads, our heroine saw that something was wrong with the eyes in his brightness. The emperor asked to enjoy the ball and shouted the glory of the empire. In response, the crowd shouted glory to the emperor. Carlyle asked the girl to one dance, and she agreed. Charlotte noticed that he dances beautifully, replied that there are things in life that you can learn even if you don't want to. The Duke also complimented the girl, saying that she is also a great dancer. He asked why the girl danced so well, or did she dance a lot with others? The lady replied that she was just paying attention in dance lessons. Carlyle asked to dance only with him from now on. Suddenly, the girl saw Penelope O'Hain, and the blonde, the unknown woman, looked the same as they described her in the carriage. It seems she went outside, and Charlotte wanted to follow her. Carlyle took the blonde on himself and promised that if the girl was gone for too long, he would immediately go after her. Surprisingly, Penelope was not around. Lionel Wiesner came to meet her. He asked if the lady was looking for a groom whom she did not even love. Carlyle was on the balcony, and Penelope approached him. After saying hello, the girl began to approach the man. For some reason, she also had strange eyes, as if she was looking through his. The woman approached the Duke like a zombie. She was wearing the same stone as the cat. It was supposed to temporarily increase Carlyle's mana. She managed to touch his hand, and a whole bunch of strange thoughts started in the my lord's head, as if they were looking for something that had been hidden for a long time. Suddenly, Carlyle is small, but Edgar, who has been looking for him everywhere, runs into his room. The boy was upset as usual, because the Rosette can use magic from the age of 5, and he is already 7, and nothing works for him. But his brother assured that there is nothing wrong with this, because the boy is just late, and even in this case, he will become the best magician. Taking his hand, the boy said that he will also become the best magician, because Carlyle Rosette and Edgar suits him. After all that, my lord remembered that he had a twin brother who was born to him as a couple, and his childhood was so peaceful because his brother was nearby. Until one day, when he was 7 years old, Edgar was kidnapped. He saw the stress and fear of his parents, because Edgar looked just like him and was mistaken for him and killed instead of Carlyle. Amazingly, the man himself killed Petrian with his own hands, and even those who survived the fire were killed by the Emperor's knights. There is no one left, and that's how it should be. The boy who had just taken revenge lay exhausted. The thief's plan was about to succeed, and Carlyle was not confused and touched the ring to himself. Amazingly, the ring that Charlotte gave him glowed, and a strange glow appeared around it. Suddenly, Charlotte came running. They looked at Penelope and saw that she was under a spell. That is why she behaved so strangely. Our heroine removed the spell, and she became much worse. Meanwhile, Penelope O'Hain has lost consciousness. They decided to go to the carriage immediately. Lania saw that she was bleeding. As was known, the bracelet with the red stone was the source of the spell. As Penelope's hand gripped his, Carlyle felt his mana begin to move. This was done to release his memories and drive him insane. Charlotte is shocked and wonders if he has regained his memories. The lady started apologizing. He didn't listen to her and just took her hands and said that everything is fine. He knew that she had a reason not to say this, and he was sorry that she had to suffer so much because of him. Suddenly, Penelope woke up, cleared her throat, and asked where she was. Mrs. Lanaya said that the girl was staying in Duke Heinst's mansion. Carlyle wondered if the lady remembered talking to him at the ball. That woman said that she remembers only how they prepared for the ball, and nothing else. She remembers how Viscount Rister came to pick her up. After these words, the woman began to have a severe headache and could not say anything more. Most likely, she was under a mind control spell. Carlyle went to call Annie. At the same time, the Duke was angry because he knew that his memories had been sealed by the senior magician himself. As soon as his memories came back, he wanted to ask about everything. The old man entered his office. Carlyle apologized for bothering so late, and he needed to make sure of something. He wondered if the wizard knew the name Edgar. The man thought that the Duke found out about his brother thanks to Charlotte, and it was not so. Carlyle grabbed the old man by the shoulder and ordered him to tell everything without mentioning Charlotte, because it was he who erased all his memories. But the sorcerer replied that he was only carrying out the will of his late father, because after the death of Edgar, the Duke was completely out of his mind. He was afraid of losing Carlyle too, and ordered the memory to be erased. After all, after sealing the memories, Mana would calm down, and nothing would threaten the current lord. At the time, it was the best they could do for Carlyle's well-being. The Duke believed that the sorcerer should have told everything immediately after he accepted the title. He assures that it is because of the sorcerer and his late father that Theo is now in danger, because if he knew about Edgar and Marquise Petriani, his younger brother would not be in danger. If Carlyle hadn't remembered all this through the stone, he wouldn't have guessed that anyone from the Petrian family had survived. The man added that the old man cannot justify all this and say that it was for his sake. The Duke said that this time he would give one task so that the sorcerer would decide who he serves, him or his father. Meanwhile, Mrs. Lanaya felt very bad, and her cough did not go away, and she felt an incredible heaviness in her chest. The girl realized that what Teresa had warned her about was happening. She could not wait any longer, so she wrote a letter to Teresa. Later, Penelope got much better. She is grateful to the Duke and Mrs. Lana for their help. The man added that the doctor told about a quick fix if the girl would take medicine and walk a lot. Our heroine felt strangely as if she was wedged between the two main characters. Suddenly, the girl felt a pain in her chest and twisted her face. Carlyle immediately saw this and asked if everything was okay with her. The radio excused itself and said that everything was fine with her. Suddenly, Charlotte asked one question. She was curious about Penelope's relationship with Viscount Rister. The girl said that she met the young man recently. It happened when her father was expanding his business. They saw each other many times, and he called her to the ball, although she doubted her father ordered her to go with him. The couple looked at each other, and Penelope swore that she did not have a romantic relationship with that man. Carlyle apologized and added that he had urgent business. He assured the girl that if she needed anything, she could call a servant at any time. In parting, Carlyle touched our heroine's shoulder. Penelope saw this and said that it was very nice to take such care of each other, because they looked like two doves, and even she herself was envious. The lady immediately understood that Charlotte had more questions that she was uncomfortable asking in front of the Duke, so the girl gave permission to ask her further. Ms. Lanaya began to ask about the bracelet that Viscount Rister had given her because it had a hypnotic spell on it. Now Penelope understood why the strange person whom the young man introduced her to asked to show the bracelet and grabbed her wrist. After all, immediately after that, she lost her memory and does not remember either his name or what he looks like. Remembering the recent conversation with Carlyle and their guesses about Viscount Rister, the rosette dissipated. The Duke was waiting outside the door of the room after Mrs. Lonnie ran out of there. She told that someone else had cast the spell. Suddenly, the girl remembered that there was a guy who detained her when she was alone. It was Lionel Wisner. In the meantime, the saint received a letter from the heroine. She informed that she will soon appear in the possession of the Duke, so until then she needs to be careful, because the thread of fate may break. After reading this letter, the girl realized that she could die, and it became very scary, because it was not death itself that scared her, but what would remain after death. The girl thought about the fact that she did not appreciate and did not love as much as she could. Realizing that she has almost no time, the lady wanted to confess her feelings to Carlyle, because even if she looks at someone next to him, her heart hurts. The girl opened the door to Carlyle's office without knocking, and as soon as he came out, she said that she liked him. She apologized for not saying it earlier and pretended not to notice it because she was afraid that there would be another person next to him. And she also admitted that the most stupid thing is that she kept her distance and still took steps so that her husband would not forget that she was nearby. She did not want to act selfishly and push him away, and yet they recognized that she was probably a selfish person. Suddenly, Carlyle decided to say something that he wouldn't have dared to say later. He told that most likely the Petrian family targeted Theo because of him. After Edgar's death, he burned the Petrian mansion, and everyone inside died. He wanted to take revenge for the fact that they killed his brother, and now something similar will happen, and he will not feel sorry for them. The blood of many people is on his hands, which cannot be erased. He asked if the girl would accept a person like him. The girl did not answer anything and simply kissed his hand. The man was surprised by such a gesture, and she added that if it didn't happen to him, it's all over and she likes him the way he is. She agrees to share her difficulties and sorrows with him, so she asked to laugh a lot and be happy together from now on. After that, the couple had a hot kiss. They were both so excited that they seemed to fly up to the sky from emotions and pleasure. Carlyle asked to call him by his name again, because he couldn't even believe that this was happening. They kissed and confessed their love for each other. After that, he was sitting in his office. A subordinate came to him very quickly. He said that the information he asked for should be urgently studied by him. It turned out that the deceased younger sister of Count Weisner had an affair with Marquise Petrian, and they had an illegitimate child. He was not given the surname Petrian as he was out of wedlock, so they escaped death when the entire family of Petrian was killed. It turned out that Viscount Rister is being helped by the Wisner family, and most likely that Lionel Wisner is using him. Carlyle joyfully grabbed the letter and said that he understood everything, because for Lionel Wisner, Viscount Rister is just a bait to not reveal his identity. Because Viscount Rister was on all public escorts, and even if they came out on him, there would be no way to catch him. Now it was clear why he wanted to attack Theo. He just wanted revenge because he wanted to feel everything that he did. But the Duke did not want to just accept it. The man ordered to bring Viscount Rister and Lionel Weisner at any cost. Meanwhile, the boy was hiding from the Knights of Heinst, who were already on all the streets. Most likely he understood that the Duke guessed who was who. The young man understood that if the Duke caught him, he would not let him simply die. He could not just fall for them like that. Suddenly, a fiery charge appeared near him. The sorcerer Heinst was glad to meet the old man. He asked to settle the conflict without force and just go with him. The guy was in prison. He agreed to a conflict-free solution with the magician. His face and mouth were tied, and he himself was chained to a chair. Carlyle took off his bandage and said that he did not live up to his expectations because he thought that the Viscount was smarter. The Duke asked if the mage had checked his mouth. Maurice confirmed that there was no poison in the thief's mouth with which he could kill himself. After the blindfold was ordered to be removed, the Viscount began to beg for pardon, promising to tell everything. Milord did not want explanations. He already understood everything, and for what reason he did everything. Carlyle directly asked where Lionel Wisner was now, and he said he didn't know because he was contacting him himself. The Duke did not want to listen to these excuses and stabbed him with a knife, ordering him to speak immediately if he wanted to keep his other hand. Carlyle said that in such a case, they had no choice but to wait for the sorcerer to contact him himself. Maurice also wondered what kind of spell had been put on His Majesty. The detainee said that he did not know for sure, but before he could finish the sentence, he suddenly died unexpectedly. A spell of secrecy was imposed on him. All this angered Carlyle so much that he could no longer come to terms with his inner anger. Meanwhile, Laenia was reading a fairy tale about Toto, who came out of the cave because problems will not be solved in the cave. It was after these words that Theo fell asleep. Laenia looked at the boy. She would like to read fairy tales to him every day, and she understood that soon her time would end. She promised that she would protect him as long as she could. Carlyle quickly ran to Theo's room and asked if she was here because of him, and the lady replied that she just hadn't gone to bed yet. She touched the milord's face and said that he looked tortured. She added that she was worried that the man would not overwork himself. A smile appeared on his face. He took her hand and said that everything is fine with him. He added that he had learned that Saint Teresa was visiting them today, and he wanted to know the reason for her visit. The girl thought for a long time and still dared to tell about the fact that Teresa was coming to her. The lady said that every time she uses her power, her body weakens. Saint noticed this recently and ordered not to use the Force again, and she wanted to protect Theo and Carlyle and solve the problem they were facing. But she overdid it, and it was a pity. She began to apologize to Carlyle and hugged him tightly. Milord said it was his fault, and he should have taken more care of her. The man asked if she was okay now, and the girl answered that everything was not so bad, and if she used the Force again, it would be much worse for hers. But if it is necessary, she will use force for the sake of it. Carlyle pressed the girl's hand to his face and told her not to hide anything from him under any circumstances, and to tell him everything like today. After all, he wants to do everything together with her, the girl agreed. The man ordered Charlotte to lie down in bed. Meanwhile, he would stay with her until she fell asleep. While in bed, Lamia said that the holiday would help remove the spell from His Majesty. Carlyle was happy about this and said that he would accompany the saint to the castle, but the girl should stay in the mansion. Charlotte got angry because the guy just said that he wanted them to do everything together, and now he orders to be at home. The man said that she didn't even know how much his heart was trembling now, because they had been lying like that before. Only in those moments he couldn't look directly at her. Now everything is completely different. His heart is beating so much, and now he will not run away like a fool. Milord approached Miss Lania and asked if he could kiss her. The girl herself approached, and they kissed again. Carlyle asked if she wouldn't mind an official engagement when it was all over. She agreed. Suddenly, the little boy said something in his dream, and the couple got scared. Seeing that the boy was just sleeping, they laughed hard at his mumbling in his sleep. When accompanied by Mrs. Teresa, the castle seemed quite empty. Usually, there is a guard standing next to the throne room, but here it is not even visible. The holiday itself also noticed the strangeness in the situation. Carlyle introduced himself to His Majesty, but even before he had time to properly introduce himself, His Majesty ordered to seize the man. He added that the traitor will be immediately punished and executed. The Lord thought that Carlyle wanted to burn down the ballroom, and he came here to disturb the imperial castle again. The Duke understood that the Emperor's consciousness was controlled by other people and made to think that he was planning treason. He needed the immediate help of the saint. She approached the Emperor, but he did not understand why the woman came with the traitor. The saint said that most likely the Emperor was confused about the fact that the Duke is a traitor, and began the process of cleansing from the evil energy that was in the castle. It began to work, and the negative mana that was shining on everyone present in the castle began to dissipate. Suddenly, the Emperor came to his senses and asked why they were here. He did not understand why the guards detained the Duke and ordered to release him immediately. The Emperor was extremely surprised and did not understand what was happening. Carlyle promised that he would explain absolutely everything in the most interesting details. After learning about Lionel Weisner and the mind control spell, the man became very angry. Now he understood why he needed an audience. It also became known to him that it was he who exposed the Crown Prince to danger during the tournament. All this was tantamount to treason, so he ordered the arrest of Lionel Weisner at that very moment, because he would pay for his crimes. Carlyle asked to personally order him for the crimes committed. Charlotte and Theo were sleeping in their rooms when Carlyle walked in and asked if they were all right. While Theo slept, the couple decided to talk outside. She exchanged it with all her might and wondered why it took so long, because she was very worried. Her lover replied that he was not injured and returned with strength, so she should not worry about anything. His Majesty released him from the mind control spell and gave him the right to personally execute Lionel L. Wisner. And the problem is, they can't find him. Judging by the way Viscount Rister died for Lionel, people are just consumables on the way to achieving the goal. He will do anything to teach him and Theo. Suddenly, Charlotte had a great idea. Since he would come anywhere to harm them, he could use their engagement as bait. And they went to the ball knowing that it was a trap, and Lionel Wiesner would do the same. They wanted to end the enemy at their engagement ceremony. Suddenly, playing in the sand, Theo asked himself what an engagement was. The couple was surprised and asked where he heard this word from. The boy said that Emma confessed that her sister and brother are engaged and there will be a party soon. And in his opinion, if there will be a party soon, the engagement is good. Carlyle replied that it was good, and he and Miss Linnea promised to be with each other forever. The kid was very happy because this means that his sister will be with them forever. My lord asked if Count Jack and Isaac would be present tomorrow. Charlotte replied that it was true because Jack was already very upset, because it is strange that she does not call her family for the engagement. Carlyle said that it is better to tell the family the truth, because they were very worried that their engagement was not real. He thinks that it will be right to tell everything as it is, because he wants them to treat him well. Hearing this, the girl smiled and blushed a little. Leaning on her husband's shoulder, she said that she would try to make them treat him better. As soon as Jake arrived, he started shouting at the girl, saying that she doesn't understand what she's thinking because she doesn't invite them or her parents to the engagement. And it seems like nonsense to them. But Charlotte told him to calm down and listen to her because she doesn't call the family to the engagement. The brothers stopped understanding the girl even more, and she promised to explain everything. Having told everything that happened and how Theo was attacked by hired killers and what happened at the tournament and about the fire in Theo's room, the brothers' faces turned very pale. Jake ordered that the engagement be called off immediately as it was too dangerous. Jake could not calm down and said that it is dangerous, and this cannot be allowed. Isaac reassured him. He added that in this case they will not interfere with their plans. Still, they wanted to help in some way, but the girl said that this was a matter for the Heinst family, and that it had nothing to do with them. But Jake shouted that now the girl is in danger, and it is directly related to them, and the girl replied that it is not so, and they do not need to interfere. After all, they themselves do not know who Lionel Wiesner is and what he is capable of, so the girl does not want her brothers to be in danger because of hers. After listening to his sister, Isaac said that the situation was indeed difficult and agreed that they should not come. Jake started to get angry at this again, and Isaac put the mug down and said that they would wait for her outside without being at the ceremony, and if something happened, they would be able to get her out, and he sincerely hoped that wouldn't happen. At the end, he added that if she feels danger, she should protect herself with a loving method and even call her brothers, and then they will protect her. Charlotte smiled and said that she would do as he said and hugged her brothers. Standing on the balcony, our heroine thought, because the engagement is tomorrow, and she doesn't even want to sleep because of her worries. She understood that she would not be able to calm down until she was with Carlyle. Suddenly, she was visited by a holiday. She apologized for scaring the girl, but she said that she was so worried about her, that's why she came to give another blessing. The woman asked if the Duke would be angry because she came unannounced. But our heroine answered that there will be nothing bad in this. Teresa asked not to use force at tomorrow's ceremony, and it is clear that she will not listen to her. Ms. Linnea apologized to her and said that if the situation was dangerous, she would have no choice but to use her power, even if it would be dangerous for her life.